too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the rings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all on the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. So I'll never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
Won't stop going till a player on top know it. Rooftop pit, how sweet. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fight through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already. Emotional work and devotion, we put in this time. Look, you won't stop. Bounce back, might have took an L, we don't count that though. Remember back, we was down bad, now the way we looking, gotta doubt that. I know you see the way we moving, giving game, better listen like a student. Don't talk bad it, be about it, do it. Look here, really ain't nothing to it. I got proof for you like tenfold, always down for the team, 10 toes. You been hater, we been on, won't quit till I'm in the end zone. Won't stop till I hit the goal line, never been the one to need a cosign. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion, we put in this bedtime. Look, you won't stop.
I'll be there waiting for the rest. I'll take pity on the man.
Well, in the game of high speeds, fast numbers, and quick points, there's only one magic number going into this race, and it's one. Just one race to get into the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs. and it all kicks off tonight from the World Center of Racing. Welcome to the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show as we get ready for an electric race 21 of this Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, and we're so happy to have you join us again on a Wednesday night here on the KBueno Racing Network. Alongside Charlie Byer and Keelan Belsha, I am Kenneth Bueno as we try to get things sorted for what will be a doozy tonight. Keelan, it is going to be wild. Daytona as a super speedway always provides the unpredictability. Maybe the more sophisticated super speedway out of the two when you think of the comparison to Talladega, but things will be reckless, things will be wild, and tonight's the only shot everyone has at making the playoffs.
Well, you know, when this schedule dropped, Kenneth, everyone's fear was being on the playoff bubble coming into the regular season cutoff race at Daytona. And for a handful of drivers, that's their reality tonight, that they're going to have to fight through this track. So unpredictable, a great race can turn into a poor finish just like that, Kenneth. It is so unpredictable here at the World Center of Racing, and that's why that's why fans love it. That's why people love this racetrack, because it's that wild card factor that this racetrack brings, and it's going to be an exciting one.
And Charlie, it becomes so simple. Just one regular season race remains. We've gone through all of the other 20. We just need this 21st race at a super speedway, exactly where we began the campaign in mid-September of last year. It's been a pretty long time since we kicked off this Season 7 campaign, but we're finally here in a moment where it's decision time. 15 drivers are going to be making it. Ton of guys that are still up in the air to enter the postseason as of this point. So this really will be the game changer right before we take that 1 week break and head into Auto Club for the playoffs.
Yeah, and it's one thing to go into a race where you need to make something to happen in order to grab as many points as you can, or possibly a race win, not only for playoffs, but for a personal goal. But to have a surface like Daytona where things are unpredictable, it adds a whole other element to this championship battle, or this race to the playoffs, because it only takes a few smart decisions and a lot of teamwork to get up to the front. We're going to see a lot of teamwork out of these guys, and especially helping those who need as many points as they can to get that last spot, or last few spots into the playoffs. So this is a great race to have the last race of the regular season, and these guys are going to put on a show for us tonight.
No better place to be in the present moment of figuring out those drivers that will be in and those that will unfortunately have to wave goodbye to a championship chance as they go into the West Coast race of Auto Club in a couple of weeks' time. But as we look into the present, possibly the future in this race, we have to look back at a rearview mirror. Let's look at what happened last week in the Lone Star State, our second Texas race, but this time at the Fort Worth Oval in that 1.5-mile track. Jaden Porter, his second consecutive pole, got him on the front row. Didn't take long, Keelan, for Steven Maggio to take the lead, but it was a who's who of who was up front. Kyle Benson stole the top spot. There's Brandon Hawkins taking away second, then progressively stealing the race lead, an effort to go 2 in a row at the Texas Motor Speedway. And the racing was phenomenal, but we did have the chaos. There's Craig Lownslager nearly in the middle of 3 wide, and then getting turned by Eric Schaefer. That was our first caution to lap 13.
It was a wild open to this race, a rotating door of everybody out front. Maggio and Peel, they battled it out very well. All these guys up front, they were racing each other really hard. It was a great race, but it looked like to be another episode of Dahari versus Brandon Hawkins, and that's what it was shaping up to be as the night went on. Dahari made the pass for the lead there. He looked like he may have had Hawkins' number in the long runs a little bit, but this incident with Cody Kinsey and Mikey Neal became the next caution of the race and kind of shook strategy up. Lawson Peel ended up getting up front for a little bit. Him and Hawkins were racing hard. Then it was more chaos here. This incident right here was the one that took Tyler Murray's playoff hopes away. His teammate Christopher Bishop also in it, has put him in a hole for tonight's race. But it was great racing from then on out. Kyle Benson, incredible save by him right here. And we had 3 wide, 4 wide moves all over the place coming out to the checkered flag.
And that's Austin Reedy, who needed a good point stay last week just to find himself with a good chance at making the playoffs. Gabriel Dahari getting swept up in it. Then over green flag pit stops, Dahari, one of the fastest cars in the night, made a deer mistake speeding on pit road, and then with a fresh tire, Eric Schaefer gets turned into the outside wall, and from there we had a late race restart. Brandon Hawkins slid to the inside, bottom 3 wide. The theatrics of Hawkins versus BBR in those final laps, but the 98 car walks away for his 6th win of the season and 11th career 4-wide racing TJ's team victory, and is the first driver to go 3 in a row since Colin Forrester, the Florida native, did it back in Season 3, his rookie campaign. And the resume, is so impressive, Keelan, because over such a short career, Hawken has already proved himself to be one of the best idealistically on the racetrack, but you look at the stats and it backs him up considerably. Now second on the all-time wins list, got over Colin Forrester, and now there's only one man to beat. 13 wins to get there, though. Needs a little bit more time in his four-wide career, but he's left an impression super early.
Yeah, and just his rookie season last year, we think back to it with the Xfinity cars, it was a part-time schedule for him, so he didn't even make the playoffs, didn't have a shot to compete, but in that schedule, he got 5 wins on the season. He made a impressive stand last year, and then this season, we come into season 7, and he's got 6 wins to his credit. He's probably the favorite for the championship right now. It's going to take a little bit of magic from Stephen Maggio to take away that top seed from him. As we look at the playoff picture post-Texas right now, Jaden Porter, our regular season champion with 2 wins. He's been very consistent this year. His name highlighted in blue up there. We see everybody else with wins. All of these guys relatively safe when it comes to the chaos this evening. All of these guys officially locked into the 4-wide playoffs with Lance Hill, Kyle Benson, Curtis Kelly, Craig Lautensager. But behind that is where we see this swarm of a mess that we're going to be following all night long. The closest battle right there on the cut line, Michael Newbraw and Austin Reedy. He had a great points night last week at Texas to put him in a much better situation than he was before that, though.
Yeah, we look at how chaotic things have been around that cut line. Brandon Banks has been there for a little while, and things have switched up in an instant. Those 5 points, all that Austin Reedy needs to get over the hump and get over that red line. A coveted one you want to be over by the time we get out of tonight's race. And not too many shakeups inside the top 10. You were looking at Jaden Porter highlighted as that regular season champ. He will have those extra playoff points to his advantage, but this is what we're going to watch all night long. The batch of drivers that are still mathematically a shot at either getting in or getting bounced out in those last few seconds. It's going to be fun just to see how things shake out in the last several laps of this race. Any move tonight could make the difference between being in and being out at the end of 120 laps. And the fight for points, not only at the cut line, but for those at the front, and 5 playoff points are available from the big bracket challenge, something we've been doing for a little while in the back half of this regular season. Our final 4 has come down to the national championship, if you will. Kyle Benson, the 5 seed, versus Stephen Maggio on the other side of the bracket as the number 2 seed in this finale. And the storyline is benefits for both drivers, obviously, but Kyle Benson, one who has struggled to find a win this year, with these next-gen cards, probably needs this one more than Maggio does.
That's for sure. He needs those playoff points. He does not have a win to his credit this season. So Kyle Benson with basically a win or 2 in his back pocket with the bracket challenge would be hugely beneficial, because we know how important those playoff points are. But also Stephen Maggio, he could use them too, as he is trying to track down Brandon Hawken to be the 1 seed of the 4-wide playoffs. And if he pulls off a clean sweep tonight, being the bracket, a pole, and a win, he would be 2 points above Brandon Hawken. He would tie him with the bracket challenge and a pole tonight. So if he gets that pole, that's going to be a big teller, as he is 6 points behind Brandon Hawken for that 1 seed in the 4-wide playoffs. But both of these drivers could use it, and with how unpredictable Daytona is, I don't know if I would put my eggs in the basket of either of these guys as a favorite right now.
And you know, even if you are a successful driver or not this season, there is still something to play for, something at stake. And for Maggio there, he wants to overcome Brandon Hawken in playoff points. And when you have that cushion going into the first round, that means a big deal when you have poor races or certain unpredictable things happen in that first round. But we'll keep an eye on it. And basically the rules is very simple. You got to finish ahead of the other, and that is what will get you those bonus points for the bracket challenge. Kyle Benson, in a particular situation where he's fighting for points, he is basically locked in on points to the playoffs given any circumstance, but he's trying to rekindle some of the great memories he had here exactly 1 year ago at the World Center of Racing. Pace car will peel to the left for what will be the final time regardless of the outcome. Austin Reedy and Kyle Benson to the restart zone and to the green. Benson sends the block. They wiggle in turn 3, but they stay put first through 4th. Austin Reedy and Benson to the flag. We're 3 wide. Benson in the middle. Photo finish with Austin Reedy.
Kyle Benson!
And Kyle Benson is back to winning ways.
Oh my God, Kenneth. Holy crap. Well, I threw one of them patented Mikey Waltrip half blocks down the backstretch. That was probably the most flamboyant I've ever won a race before. It was something, man.
And for Benson there, Keelan, he's in a very specific paint scheme. We'll talk about that in just a couple of moments. But Daytona was so special to him last season. A campaign where it seemed like Murray Reedy Motorsports had struggled to find their pace and find their rhythm. Tyler Murray wins the regular season finale at Talladega, and things change in an instant. Benson gets the win at Daytona, puts himself in a very good spot near the end of the championship, and nearly stole it away. It was third by the time they got to Homestead, Miami. Tonight, looking for a bit of that rekindled magic as we get down to this final regular season race.
Yeah, you see a lot of similarities in this season and last season for this team overall. They've had a lot of speed, a lot of consistent guys with runs from Benson and Lautenschlager and all them. Tyler Murray, he's had his moments, and so has Tristan Bailey in that 35 car. These guys have all had the speed when it matters, but it feels like closing these races out has been difficult for them. Kyle Benson, he's been in position to have a shot at several of these and just hasn't been able to get the upper edge on these guys. So I feel like a win today at Daytona for that 38 car, it would create a lot of positive momentum for that team and maybe get a couple teams in the championship 5 by the time it's all said and done.
And when we look at the grand scope of super speedway racing, Murray Reedy Motorsports usually at the top of that list. They swept those super speedway races last season, and they have performed well in the past. Given the fact that it's the Xfinity or Next Gen card, no matter what, they've always been strong, and they've always been able to deal a relatively good hand when it comes down to these types of racing deals because, you know, face it, these drivers in the 4 deep that they are at Murray Reedy Motorsports, lots of them with super speedway winning experience or just running well in a pack together. And in a case like this, that's really all you need to do well by the time we get down to it. Now, we do have a very particular situation going on tonight that we do want to let you guys know. Watching on the KBueno Racing Network tonight, there are a barrage of severe thunderstorms and possible tornado warnings that are dealt to the Midwest and partially the East Coast as it's moving eastward through the United States. And we are going to implement a 4Y contingency plan given a certain scenario. So as we see it, if mass disconnections occur, which means 4 or more drivers drop out either at the same time or in the same given context due to the storms that are in the Midwest, we'll have 2 options to have this race decided. Number 1, if more than 50% of the race is complete, and that does happen, the race will run as normal. We will finish the race and declare a winner, and the drivers that did disconnect due to either needing to or any sort of internet connectivity issues because of the storms, they will be given points based on their average running position of the race. Now, if less than 50% of the race is complete by the time the mass disconnections occur, then the race will be rescheduled to next week, and we will call off the race as it goes through. Remember, we are aiming for the halfway mark of tonight's race as we see it, lap 60 of 120, just to find our way to that specific marker of the race. So keep in mind, halfway race may be necessary, but we will keep you updated as to whether anything changes and whether anything happens in regards to drivers bouncing out and having problems due to those severe storms that are hitting the United States right now. Let's try to talk to one of those drivers who's near the cut line and trying to find some win here at Daytona. And we're joined by Stonks Motorsports' AJ Green. AJ, you and your teammate Colin, I think you guys have put on stellar moments week by week and race by race at Daytona specifically. You're on that bubble near the 15th place cut line. What is it going to take to survive and call yourself a playoff driver by the time the checkered flag waves?
Well, you said it best, survive. It's a longer race tonight, 120 laps, so no fast repairs, so you gotta stay out of trouble. Which, you know, you could stay in the back or you could run up front. I think I'm gonna run up front, or at least try to. And we're gonna see how clean I can keep it.
Well, we've seen you perform well here in the past, and a lot of that has come from late race restart success. A lot of times these Daytona races come down to the final 5, maybe the final 3, maybe the final 2, maybe that final lap coming out of turn 4. So if you're in a situation like that, you have your teammate Lance Hill with you. I'm not sure if we're going to see Colin Forrester this evening. How do you try to lean on the drivers you've been helping and been teammates with over the course of this season to help you and the team get to a position where you guys can assure yourselves as playoff contenders?
Well, we're definitely gonna work together on that. Yeah, Lance has a win. He's already in the playoffs, so I'll definitely try to see if I can get him to push if he's ever behind me. But then if he's not behind me, I have to rely on if I've made good relations in the league and see who's behind me and if they're willing to push, and hope they don't leave. And just see if I can get there at the end.
Just trying to find friends. And I'm going to bring this up because Colin Forrester told me to bring him up. And you had a picture that you sent in the Discord a couple days ago of a ton of these great paintings of old NASCAR legends. And by the way, it looks beautiful. The wall is gorgeous. But Colin asked why you focus more on the ceiling. Why was there such a large ceiling gap compared to the pictures on the wall?
I didn't want to get my father in the photo, and so instead of cropping it, I just decided to angle my phone up and just get the paintings, and I left half of it to a ceiling. So, yeah.
Well, maybe we'll get in that debate a little bit later. Maybe after the race is over, if Colin wants to chime in. He says that you suck at taking pictures. I don't want to say that, but a little fun there. AJ, hopefully we'll see you in the playoffs by the time we get to Auto Club Speedway. But until then, best of luck as we take the green tonight from Daytona.
Thank you.
That's AJ Green, driver for Stonks Motorsports. He finished second here in our last Daytona Next Gen race to his teammate in Colin Forrester by 5 1/1000ths of a second, as that sits still the closest ever 4-wide finish that we have ever seen in series history since 2020. Well, thinking back in the memory books makes me want to look at a KBueno moment in time, and for tonight's moment in time, we don't go back too long, only 1 year to the time where Kyle Benson got around Austin Reedy in the final 100 feet here at Daytona to get the win in the middle of the Season 6 4-wide playoffs. Welcome to today's KBueno Moment in Time. This moment comes from last year and a thrilling 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series playoff race from Daytona.
The field is unleashed to AJ Green and Colin Forrester, who go into the Geico restart zone. We're playoff racing from Daytona.
As the second playoff race of Season 6 and the only super speedway race of the round, things turned up instantly before lap 1 was complete with a big crash on the backstretch involving Colin Forrester and rookie at the time Trevor Haley. As the race progressed, eyes landed on the storyline of the Murray Motorsports trio of Kyle Benson, Tyler Murray, and non-playoff driver Austin Reedy. Drama befell championship runner-up Lawson Peel, who was caught in a big crash at lap 35. And then the Super Speedway showed no mercy to Murray, who brought out the lap 44 yellow with a spin off of turn 2. As the desperation elevated, so did the chaos. Several overtime attempts set the stage for a compelling run to the finish with 2 laps to go, where Benson used his momentum to get around in the tri-oval and create the 6th closest finish in 4-wide history at 18 1/1000ths of a second. This Daytona win was Benson's first win in over a season and the closest finish that Benson has ever had to encounter in his 4-wide career, and to this day, the 3-wide finish stands timeless in KBueno and 4-wide history. And that's today's KBueno Moments in Time. Great moment in time there. Kyle Benson getting the victory and probably one of the best 4-wide finishes that I've ever seen, Keelan. I know we talked about that 5 1/1000ths of a second finish at Daytona between the 2 Stonks guys, but the situation that was given, the 4 cars that were left, Kyle with, like he said, the Michael Waltrip path block down the back straightaway, and then all of a sudden he beats his teammate Reedy by inches at the line. Adam Alishire was nearly there to sweep Daytonas that year with the Xfinity cars. So, Charlie, it was unbelievable to watch what happened, guys, and it was great to have a memory and moment in time with Kyle as that spotlight here at this track.
Well, those are the margins that this race decides winners at. When you come to a track like Daytona, Talladega, and even Atlanta, when you're running so close to each other at a draft track and, all these guys are working together, there's a lot of variables that come into making a race, a complete race, and a great finish like that. So it's going to take inches that could possibly decide a lot of things going into the playoffs.
All right, guys. Well, we're getting into a very heavily contested race, a very important one. Final one of this regular season. Let's get into our 4 wide race trends. Keelan, what have you noticed in the week that we got out of Texas, and as we enter Daytona, what should we think about most?
Well, I think we got to think about that. Murray Reedy Motorsports is the super speedway team to beat tonight. In 2 of the last 4 super speedway races, they've been in victory lane. 3 of the last 7, and in their last Daytona night race before the season opener this year, Kyle Benson was the one who went to victory lane. These guys are always running up front. They had like 3 cars in the top 5 in the final lap earlier this season before they got involved in a late race incident. They kind of took each other out, handed the win to Steven Stempien, but I wouldn't expect that to happen again tonight. These guys are going to be the guys to beat. We're going to see those front row motorsport font numbered cars running up front all night long, and they're going to be the team to beat tonight.
One of the good things about that team, Keelan, they have a ton of drivers on the camp, so they have a lot of numbers to play with. Charlie, what do you think about Daytona?
Well, even though it is Daytona, I do have to say that I do think a new winner is on the horizon. If you go look into the trends, this race started off with 5 first-time winners, then 6 repeat winners, then 5 more first-time winners this season, and then 5 more repeat wins. So I think we're at the tail end of our repeat winner train here. I think we're going to get a new winner tonight, and I think Daytona is probably the best and most safe place to make that assumption, which only makes me more confident that we're going to see someone new in victory lane.
I like that call, Charlie. And from what we've seen from some of the newer teams, Dark Horse Motorsports, they've been able to put on a show. And, you'd argue if Escamilla didn't go for a spill, if Trevor Haley didn't get into trouble at the end of the race and wasn't in a position to win, what could they have done? And could they have won a race? Tonight may be the best shot that they have at winning a regular season race, because everything's up in the air and Dark Horse has a strong core and they always work together at these types of tracks. So we'll just take a moment and look. Keelan Belsha, let's get into our KBueno track map. Our images provided to us by Google Earth. Daytona, no introduction needed for this 2.5 mile super speedway in Florida.
Yeah, open back in 1959, 31 degrees in banking of both ends on the racetrack. I haven't got the privilege to watch a race here yet, Kenneth, but I've driven by it several times. I've eaten at the Cheddar's and Outback right across the street with my buddy JJ Hill, and when you see this thing, it is a behemoth. You can see it all the way from the interstate by the Buc-ee's over there. You can see this racetrack. It is massive. I've landed on that airport runway a couple times right behind it. When you're at Daytona, you kind of get hairs standing up on your arms. You get chills. It's the I don't know how else to describe it, Kenneth. Daytona leaves you at a loss for words. It's just that racetrack. It's one of the most iconic in the world, and we're coming to it tonight. It's going to be a fun one.
You're right. It's a track that is so synonymous with the legends of NASCAR when you think Earnhardt, Petty, Johnson, Dale Jr., and the list goes on. A lot of them have in common a Daytona 500 win or a win somehow here at Daytona, whether it be from the 500 or from the summer race, Firecracker, Pepsi 400, you name it. A lot of the big-time names have won at this speedway, and it's one that means a lot to the driver base. And typically when you think NASCAR, you do think Daytona International Speedway. So this is the place we started this season. It's where we're going to end the regular campaign as we get to the green flag in just several moments. Practice is wrapping up, but as we try to get ourselves ready for what will be an electric race number 21, that'll do it for our coverage of the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show. Big thank you to everyone that makes this all possible on this side, but on the other side, Charlie, Keelan, and I will have coverage of the 21st race and the final regular season outing in the 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. You won't want to go anywhere. Stay tuned on the KBueno Racing Network. Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How you doing, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini. I have a hoagie. I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green. He's
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish.
Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Dirt Racing 24 is available now.
If it's my only shot, I'll take it. It's playing tight, playing tight.
I heard it was time for you to lay it on the line. Do or die, early sunrise, doing suicides. You and I versus they squad, the refs and the umpires. We do them nasty, start a dynasty or an empire. You taking they side, I took the lane or the inside. Driving it to the paint, it's some pain in my eyes. Through the rain, gotta still reign supreme, no surprise. I got no fatigue, you got no defense, I'ma go for 3.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
with the set, all we do is rap. Ain't worried about next, I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here in the too focused, all that change on focus. I am not no token, boy, don't nobody hold.
And then there's one. One shot to call and one race to go to make a group of a select few to run for a title with a face-off against the one super speedway that kicked off the journey late last year. Live from Daytona, the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to the final regular season race of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series and race number 21 on the KBueno Racing Network. And as always, we are so happy to have you join us for another Wednesday night. We decide the 15 that advance into the 4-wide playoffs, and for those that will stay home, we will add the news as well. We're alongside Keelan Belsha and Charlie Beyer. I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll be joined by our in-race reporter, Francisco Bacalhau, shortly. Guys, this is going to be a wild one. 20 races prepping us for this moment here, where the stakes are high and the drivers have to put it all on the line for one shot at a playoff appearance in 2025, Keelan. This is where it all started, and this is where it's all going to end in the regular season.
And it really gives anybody a shot, Kenneth. It's good to be here tonight with you again for another Daytona race. One of my favorite tracks we get to call because there is no shortage of action, and especially with all the nerves and everybody on that cut line racing tonight. They may say they ain't nervous, but there's surely some guys out there that are nervous coming into this cut line race, especially if we get a new winner from further back. Shakes everything up. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be very exciting on a racetrack all night long. It's just going to be so good, Kenneth. I'm so excited. The Daytona race we had earlier this season was spectacular. I expect nothing short of that tonight.
And Charlie, our storyline for a bulk of the late half of the regular season was make sure you execute in these races now, because you cannot control your destiny as well as you could at the other tracks than here at Daytona. This track, as a super speedway, is all up to chance, but the drivers will have to put in one last punch possible just to get over that cut line and call themselves one of those lucky 15.
Well, I think this track does have a lot of luck factor that comes into it, but if you've got a good team and you make a lot of smart decisions, you're going to end up at the front towards the end no matter what. So I think teamwork is going to be the name of the game here tonight. We have a lot of people such as drivers representing Murray Reedy Motorsports, KBueno Racing, Drinking Bros Racing. A lot of drivers are going to be working together to get towards the front. But we could see quite a bit of domination if they do take control of this race throughout. So there's a lot of factors that go into that throughout this race and what's going to unfold to come down to the finish.
It is going to be wild, though. Daytona has always brought us great finishes, as close as 5 1,000ths of a second. We get classics here at the World Center of Racing, so maybe no shortage of that under the lights this evening. Let's get another refresher at the playoff picture, what we should expect to see points-wise going into this one. Jaden Porter leads the group. He's highlighted because he clinched a regular season title last week at Texas with a solid performance, so he is locked in as the regular season title holder. Then Brandon Hawkins, Stephen Maggio, Lawson Peel have been arguably the most dominant drivers of the season. Hawkins most recently getting his third win in a row over the last couple as he got the win at Texas. Lance Hill, that one win at Talladega, needed a bit last week just to lock himself into the playoffs. He's good now. Kyle Benson, Curtis Kelly, and Craig Lautenslager fill out the rest of the top 8. That is not the storyline, though, going into tonight. The biggest storyline is everyone, Keelan, that is 9th on back. Those drivers that have to maintain or try to beat others to get into the playoffs. We're looking at that 15th place cut line, 5 points between Michael Newbraw and Austin Reedy.
And none of these guys are safe from Eric Schaefer on back. Eric Schaefer, he's good on points, but Mikey Neal on back. Everybody else, they are going to be watching this one intently. Craig Parks on back. They are in a must-win situation. So the points battle, especially for Austin Reedy and Michael Newbraw, is right there in front of them. 5 points separate them. But if we get a win from a guy like Craig Parks further on back, that moves the cut line up to the 14th position. So even AJ Green, Brandon Banks, they have to be on their toes because they could be duking it out as well. If Newbra or Reedy gets past them, it's going to be all about car preservation, Kenneth. You got to make it to the end of the race if you want any shot at making your name in the 4-wide playoffs.
And Charlie, lots of drivers to highlight around this cut line. I mean, we talk about former champ AJ Green, Brandon Banks, who's won several super speedway races in his career, and Michael Newbra for Drinkin' Bros Racing, a guy that last season was at this very point, except behind the 8-ball. He was below the cut line going into that race at Daytona to end out that regular season. Tonight, he has the average above from Austin Reedy, back by 5 points. But, I mean, no one's safe. A swing of momentum and a big crash could take anyone out, and just like Keelan said, and this is going to be unpredictable.
You got to keep yourself safe, and you got to find the right people. If you look at the voice chats that are currently being occupied in the 4-wide Discord right now, we have about 5 voice chats of over 5 people each. So these guys have a lot of great company each. AJ Green for Stonks Motorsports, Austin Reedy for Murray Reedy Motorsports, as well as Christopher Bishop, a lot of, and et cetera for these guys. So you got to find those right people that are going to get you to the front, and you can bet that these people near the cut line are going to be in these teams' utmost priority, especially come to the end of this race.
It's the storyline that will follow all night long, apart from a couple of others that we'll tell you about in just several moments. Now, in the hours before this race went live, or at least the session went up on the iRacing service, Tyler Murray sent out a contingency plan because there are a ton of severe storms ravaging the Midwest right now and moving eastward in the United States, so it may cause complications for drivers in the field. This plan outlines the exact executions when a situation occurs of mass disconnection. So if 4 or more drivers disconnect at the exact same time, or if they are disconnecting for the same reason, aka the severe storms hitting them, then we will have 2 options of finishing this race out. Option A is if we complete more than 50% of the race's distance, which is in this case 60 laps of the 120. That means we will complete the rest of the race as scheduled, and normally we would decide a winner, and those drivers that do have to disconnect or were forced to disconnect will be placed in their average running position and will be given the points based on what that average running position is. Now, if the race is not at lap 60 or further down the line and we are not at 50% of race distance, then Tyler Murray and Race Control will make the executive decision to end this race whenever it happens, and we will reschedule this event and try to run Daytona next week. So it is a big up in the air shot as to whether we're going to finish this race tonight. The storms are unpredictable, and there are already a ton of tornado warnings issued across the country. So for those drivers that find themselves in the path of those storms, so we're going to keep a keen eye on them, and we're going to hope they are all okay and safe. But if we do end up with any decision from Race Control or from the league admins, we will let you know as soon as we can here on the KBueno Racing Network. But on a lighter note, we've got the National Championship cured up for this Final Four. Kyle Benson advanced by beating Lance Hill at Texas Motor Speedway last week. Steven Maggio was a couple of spots better than Jaden Porter, his teammate. So these 2 drivers will go right at each other for the playoff points that are available. And as a reminder, 4 wins for Steven Maggio, 0 for Kyle Benson going into this race. So Benson probably needs this more than others in this campaign. We'll keep an eye on that too as we go into the green flag race. So our qualifying has come to a close. It is our moment to take you trackside and give you tonight's starting grid for race number 21 in this 2025 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series season. It all comes down to this regular season finale and how things will shape up going into tonight. Let's take you to the front row. We're on the pole for tonight's Daytona races. Murray Reedy Motorsports' Tristan Bailey gets his Ford Mustang first with a 50.366. He will have Cody Kinsey in the 97 machine to his outside back in row number 1. In row 2, the man who's looking for the Big Bracket Challenge win tonight, Steven Maggio, aiming to get win number 5. He's got 3rd place. Trevor Haley is going to be on the outside for Dark Horse Motorsports, and his Ford will line up in position number 4. Rivers Jones, in his second 4-wide start, will line up inside the top 5. Gabriel Dahari, close to the win at Texas, then sped on pit road and crashed thereafter, looking for his first Super Speedway win. and second career 4-wide W. He's going to be on the outside of row 3. Row number 4 features a star-studded cast. Brandon Hawken looking for race win number 7 is going to be in 7th place. Lawson Peel, the season 4 champ, going to line up in 8th place on the outside row. And then for Rodney Roberts and Mikey Neal, the 20 and the 88 car Keelan, they will round out tonight's top 10.
And back in row number 6, Eric Schaefer and Brandon Banks, the Drinking Bros Racing teammates, with Brandon Banks right on the cut line with some work to do back there. AJ Green, another cut line driver. He's down there, has to play it safe today so he can advance with Nicholas Bauman and the 14 All-Star Race winner to his outside. Craig Parks in a must-win situation sits out there in the 15th position. Ethan Fonseca Moreno returns to the racetrack tonight. He starts from the 16th position. Back in row number 10, Justin Rout and Jaden Porter sit rounding out the top 20.
And right outside the top 20, we have Tyler B. Murray in that number 36 for Murray Reedy Motorsports, and Jonathan Jorgensmeyer. That's a Murray Reedy and PBR duo. Juan Escamilla in that number 41 will occupy 23rd, and Austin Reedy in that 24th position. For number 13, we have Daniel Moore and Christopher Bishop, 25th and 26th. Row number 14, we got Dusty Applin, number 16, 27th. Michael Newbrow, that number 6, Cutline driver, 28th. 29th is Curtis Kelly, and rounding out your top 30, that's going to be Craig Landslog in that.
31st is Kevin D'Elia. Chris Fowler in another 4-wide start is 32nd. 33rd will go to the 91 car of Adam Alishire, and he'll be flanked on the outside by the 34th place car, the 9 machine of Brandon Gillis. Back in 35th, you'll find season number 2 champ Scott Healy in 35th. Brian Dixon, a dual winner here at Daytona to kick off the year. He is in 36th place. Lance Hill rolls off his number 1 Chevrolet from 37th with CJ Munier on the outside in row 19. And our final driver of our 39 car field, Timothy Cook in the 19 machine. You saw Tristan Bailey back out to the end of the longest line. He has an EOL penalty going into tonight's race, so that will forfeit the pole position. There's already a crash outside of turn 2, and it's Ethan Fonseca Moreno. I don't know what happened there. Some drama right before we even get the green flag, but he's okay. I don't think there's any damage on his Chevrolet, but we will get back to it with Cody Kinsey and Steven Maggio on the front row. Let's tune in with our in-race reporter for tonight, usually in the broadcast booth with us, but tonight is on the racetrack, Francisco Bacalao. And Francisco, welcome. Thank you for joining us. What do you try to expect here in this regular season finale, knowing you're in a spot where you're just going to go for the win?
Well, that's exactly it. That's all I'm going to be doing here tonight, is just trying to play the race however I feel will be best for my interest, and of course BBR, and trying to see if one of our race cars can get the win here tonight. I've raced a super speedway before in this series. It was many seasons ago. Got a P6 here at this very racetrack, and hopefully, with the way the luck has gone for me this season, I can get my best result in my final attempt of the season.
Well, we've seen the bad luck, but you said that at super speedways is where you really shine. How are you going to try to shine as best as possible? I know you got a lot of teammates out there, so no shortage of friends to work with, but what seems to be your strategy here over 120 laps?
Well, there's no set strategy from here tonight. I'm just going to improvise, adapt, and overcome.
All right, well, Francisco, hopefully we'll be talking to you over the course of this race. Best of luck here at Daytona.
Thank you, guys, and have a great broadcast.
So that's Francisco Bacalao. In row number 9, he's going to be rolling off on the inside from 17th on the starting grid. Another look at Tristan Bailey and AJ Green, both of them getting that end-of-line penalty to kick off tonight's race. Keelan, what are your keys to victory here at the World Center of Racing?
Well, the first one and most important one is going to be avoid the big one. Chaos can happen at any time. Avoid it. Avoid the big one. Work with your teammates. If you can get grouped up with your teammates, that's going to be a huge advantage. You guys can kind of control that line, control the pack, and that's going to be very important. Be in the right position at the end of this race. Really simple right there. You just want to be running up front towards the end of this thing. Give yourself a shot to win, especially if you're on that playoff cut line. And keep your car clean. This is a big... It's a big aerodynamic disadvantage, big speed disadvantage if you get damage to that nose or to the spoiler or really any part of this race car. So you got to keep the car clean, and that's going to be important. Those are the keys to the race, Kenneth. They're going to be very important tonight. I hope they're listening to me, because this is a wild card of a race.
You know what's crazy is that I had to add a bit to the Keelan's keys to the race, because your biggest point of emphasis was avoid the big one, avoid the big one, avoid the big one. You did not want these drivers to get in the big one tonight, but it does make sense. We're at 2.5 miles super speedway. we're at a regular season finale where the desperation is very high, so you do got to be really careful about where you put your race car on the track. So with the end-of-line penalty for Tristan Bailey, who got the pole, it is Cody Kinsey and Steven Maggio, the front two, that'll lead us to the green flag for the very first time tonight. We've gone 20 races already. One more to decide the 15 that will make the 4-wide playoffs in 2025. And let's do it now. 120 laps, 300 miles. Maggio and Kinsey to the green flag. And a quick move to the interior gets Cody Kinsey the top spot as we roll to complete lap 1. Gabriel Dahari found his way to the inside. And from a push-off, Trevor Haley's front nose on the Ford Mustang up high with Lawson Pugh to help. Cody Kinsey leads the opening lap from Daytona and has a ton of headway at about 3 to 4 car lengths. Keelan Belshaw off of turn 2.
It was a really good start for that 97 car. I think that came to his benefit that we have to wait for the green flag on the initial start here on this racetrack, and that played into his benefit right there. You see how far Dahari is pushing him out. Look at who Dahari has behind him. That is a, I guess technically not teammate, but you know they're good friends, Dahari and Steven Maggio, two guys who may work together, as well as River Jones tucked in behind them. Might be trying to make a move and jump past Kinsey here. They seem content as it stands right now. There's a big gap back to Brandon Hawken and an even bigger gap from him back to Trevor Haley, who's with his Dark Horse teammate of Nicholas Bauman.
And just trying to get there, but already the opening gaps from the front, very surprising to see. And, you know, we've seen early in these super speedway races, Charlie, where the outside dissipates a bit, allows the front group to breathe, but it really doesn't take long, maybe 2, 3, or 4 laps for that secondary pack to catch right back up, get ahead of momentum, and all of a sudden make an effort for the race lead. And already some drivers looking up high for a look at the front spot. Gabriel Dahari flirting with the high side. And Dark Horse Motorsport just about thought about it, but it looks like Trevor Haley and Nicholas Bauman will stay in line. Dahari will follow suit. He'll settle back in P7, and here comes Ethan Fonseca Moreno, leader of the second group, to pick everyone up.
And one of the most interesting and beautiful things about Daytona International Speedway is how, you know, this race has an energy to it. Aside from the roar of the engines, it's almost like this field has a mood. And throughout the course of this race, we're going to see these cars tighten up when it gets to a critical moment like pit stops, and especially towards the end of this race, you're going to feel the energy and see the energy in these guys ramp up. It's going to get tense as these cars get closer and closer together as this race goes on. So for now, I think it's safe to say that while there's single file, there's not going to be a whole lot of action. But once we get to the last 100 laps, as we embark past lap 100, this energy is really, really going to skyrocket.
And when the race gets into that later stage, assuming we go past halfway, Keelan, that's where these guys turn the intensity up. That's where the racing gets a lot more sketchy, but it does get a lot more entertaining. So far, though, only 2 wide from Brandon Banks on back. That's Francisco Bacalhau, our in-race reporter, trying to manifest the secondary line with Tyler Murray, Kyle Benson, and Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, the front 4. They're on that very outside lane. So far, no real success, but with these next-gen cars, Keelan, we have seen the outside possibly be the most dominant. You can use the side draft and the run off of the 31 degrees of banking to your advantage, but as of right now, no real success, and Bacalhau just puts himself in the top 10. Slow progress through the first 5.
We did see that outside move, and it was the dominant line in the early portions of this race, and back in September, October, the season opener, when we saw Tony Kibbett and Lawson Peel, the DBR guys, they really ripped the top, and they were able to keep the speed up there. And that may be something that we see as this race progresses, but that energy not with the top right now, as you see everybody up front running the bottom. Maybe if Bacalhau can pull up to his teammate Moreno here, he might get some BBR cars to hop up there with him. It's really a strength in numbers thing, and we see it in the real side of things too. these next gens, they are so energy dependent, and you need the strength in numbers in the line that you are in. And if these BBR cars do elect to move up with that Dark Horse duo up there, you see Bacalhau, he's closing in on them. We see that top start to move, and look at this, just a two-car tandem of Nick Bauman and Trevor Haley. They're going to take a challenge for the race lead here.
And those are the two drivers, Keelan, that we were incredibly impressed with when we kicked off the season here back in mid-September of 2024. Not Juan Escamilla because he had gone flipping so early in the race, but Bauman and Haley, the dynamic duo, the way they're able to push and shove each other across this 2.5-mile super speedway gets them so much momentum that they can use to run up front. Haley and Bauman late in that race had a shot to win and managed to get runs inside the top 10, specifically Bauman that had one of his best career finishes here at Daytona to kick off season 7, and already early they are making the impression. Bauman shoves Haley to the race lead. Charlie White 2-3 car lengths.
And really the only link up between two teammates, so far, that's Dark Horse Motorsports occupying the number 4 and the number 14 in those top 2 positions. But as this race progresses, we're going to see a lot of teammates find each other. We're going to see a lot of, they're pretty easily identifiable, especially with number fonts or paint schemes. We're going to see a lot of commonalities between these cars as they find their teammates, link up, and head to the front.
Well, this may be the first time that we see an even spread of the inside and outside lanes. Kinsey cannot get over Trevor Haley to re-emerge as the top spot driver when they get out of turn 2, but by at least 2 to 3 cars, that's where the outside has the advantage, and it all started with Bacalhau making that surge up high, having the help from Tyler Murray, and getting themselves to the front relatively quickly. 8 laps, maybe 9 when we get to the start-finish line. Back in the books from Daytona, 1 lap car up the road, and it's the number 3 car for Drinkin' Bros Racing, Eric Schaefer. Keelan had to serve a drive-through, and the Hampton, Virginia native is going to be on the back foot early on.
And at least in these early laps, he's going to be the only guy a lap down, so should be able to get that lucky dog, barring Daniel Moore doesn't go a lap down before that happens. See this field, they're going to have to move up and avoid him. This is always one of the most tedious parts of the race when you're catching a lap car. I know from experience, Charlie, you were not very happy with me when I did this, but I was a lap car.
Oh,
there goes Nicholas Bauman. He's turned.
Right in front of the field, and there goes everyone. The biggest crash we've seen yet on lap number 9. And Steven Maggio is among those involved. And potentially, so is Austin Reedy, but Maggio with the most damage, possibly, as Bauman got turned. They were shuffling hard on that inside lane, and it tussled the 14 around. And that's where our first yellow flies. There is the damage done to the 14 car of Bauman, who told us after last week's race at Texas he would be switching to the Chevrolet for the remainder of the season, but now has a lot of damage to repair. And our first yellow flown not too long into the race. We'll get a better look at how this all began. And Keelan, it was all of the shuffling that was going on through that inside lane. It looked like there had been a move down low. Bauman got right under Trevor Haley, and when they stacked up, that's where Cody Kinsey got into it, and it's a full-on mess from there.
It was. It may have been a byproduct of passing that lap car. Might have shot somebody out of line, and that's how the incident starts with Bauman right there. But he got turned up into Francisco Bacalhau here. You see him move to the bottom. He just moved a little too far to the bottom, and Kinsey wasn't going to give him that hole. Bacalhau in it. Maggio, big damage. Hawken plowed right into him. Those are the guys with big damage here. Dahari might have got a little bit down there, too. A lot of guys with more tedious damage. See if Tyler Murray really, I don't know if he really escaped from this one. As you see the incident, how there, Maggio just nowhere to go with his teammates sliding down back. Hawken plowed into him, and that will more than likely take him out of contention for the big bracket challenge, barring some steady repairs on that 51 car.
And that really kills the momentum of the field, takes out a bunch of drivers early. And here are the men down pit road now. It starts with the race leader, Trevor Haley, Cody Kinsey with a bit of damage, as he's the one that got into Bauman as they stacked up. There's nothing that Kinsey could have done to evade that. Maggio had just such a head of steam, Charlie, that there was nowhere for him to go, just going to get the bump, and all of a sudden that outside lane is just bracing for impact as everyone comes down either for damage or for some splash of fuels down pit road.
And pushing is just such a huge part of this next-gen car. We've seen them both in real life and in iRacing. You have to stay on the other guy's bumper in order to have and carry a lot of energy, whichever line you're in. So these guys are going to be bumper to bumper this entire race in order to get that line moving. That's just kind of a result of being too close. And when a wreck happens right in front of you and you check up, there's really not a whole lot of room for anything between the cars in line.
And it's a bad break for Bauman, a bad break for Bakayao, for Murray, for Brandon Hawken, and probably most importantly for Steven Maggio, searching for win number 5 of the season. As Trevor Haley will pick up the iRacing official pace car, that'll put Justin Rout and Gabriel Dahari inside this top 3. So just how quickly things change when you have some pit stops and you have a big crash in the opening 10. So during this race, we will have a look at the live points, and this is what they look like going into tonight. Just a reminder, it's 5 points between Michael Newbraw and Austin Reedy, and given the level of talent here, no shortage of success for Trevor Haley, leading some laps at the opening jump. Keelan, but Nicholas Bauman may go for a tussle.
It will, and that's what Nicholas Bauman had to avoid tonight, was an early exit, and hopefully he can get that car fixed up and back in this thing, but it is not the way he wanted to race this evening. He wanted to be in this thing till the end, and it's unfortunate how it is gone for him.
So we will most likely get the 1 to green signal this time, and with that, almost everyone has come down pit road, so everyone thinking this is the chance they're going to take to add some extra fuel to their race cars, and for 2 drivers, their race most likely will not continue. Juan Escamilla is already 2 laps down. It appears he has hit the garage, and the same goes for Rodney Roberts, who I don't think even completed a lap tonight, or if he did, just completed the opening lap and did not continue from there. There's Bakayao coming out of pit road. It looks like Steven Maggio has also put his Toyota Camry behind the wall. So Maggio out early, a big shock, but thankfully 4 wins and a ton of playoff points will give him the benefit of being one of those top-seeded drivers when we go playoff racing at Auto Club. That does mean, though, Charlie, he will lose out on the big bracket challenge just as long as Kyle Benson stays on the racing service.
Yeah, and what a fun mid-season or in-season tournament that was. Unfortunately, it didn't have an exciting ending as one driver got taken out in a big crash. The other is scot-free, but it's nice to have that award early if you're Kyle Benson. He's still locked in the playoff on points, but what an accolade to have that for you.
So Benson will get the benefit of the doubt, and I'm sure he didn't want it to end that way given the big bracket challenge. However, he will be happy to get those extra bonus points. That will go a long way to Benson's potential championship pursuit, and whilst he still tries to look for a win number 1 of 2025. We are ready to go green flag racing in just a moment. But right before we do, let's get a look at one of the famed paint schemes that we see tonight. And it's a beautiful memory look for Craig Lautenslager and Kyle Benson tonight. Both of them adorning a 4-wide logo special to this race because today, April 2nd, is the 5-year anniversary of this 4-wide racing league. It started all back in 2020 when Roman Long and Tyler Murray came up with the ideas to come and make this race and make this series a success, make this one a real series in the midst of the pandemic. So we are going to continue possibly giving our best 4-wide memories and adorning the greatness that 4-wide has brought us over the last 5 years as it continues through season 7. Restart lap 13, our first one of the night. The field will see the Barney flag, and Trevor Haley, Gabriel Dahari, Justin Rout will make the launch first to turn 1.
It's a good jump for Haley, but he's not going to have his teammate Nicholas Bauman with him as he just got taken out in that caution right there. He's going to have to rely on Dahari right behind him. You see Rout closing in right there. Kevin D'Elia, he had a great run at Daytona before he was taken out in the crash he was involved in. A lot of guys who we saw up front earlier in the year are up here now as we see them start to single file out, kind of chill out for the time being. First real side-by-side battle back there with one of those tribute cars of Craig Lautenslager alongside Adam Alishire, but single file for the most part as Trevor Haley starts to scoot away.
And they have single filed out very quickly, reminiscent, Charlie, of what we saw in that opening lap, but not sure if we're going to find the same situation here this evening. We saw just how crazy things got when they were side by side, almost every single row deep throughout the field. I'm guessing most of them do not want to be in the same situation again. Front 4 out, and they are covered by at least 0.2 of a second. Dahari giving every bit of a shove and more to Trevor Haley, and look how far the secondary pack is. You have to go all the way back to Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, Scott Healy, and the rest of the pack to find them just batching up together. Everyone at the front have decided to leave the group.
Yeah, you'd have to guess that this entire pack would approach this next run with a bit of trepidation as the result of the crash and from the double foul racing last run. But I didn't expect to have a 4-car breakaway, a 2-car breakaway, and then all the way back to the rest of the pack. That could have been a result of mistiming. But like I said, pushing in this next-gen car is so important. So the lead of this back group is going to be pushing as hard as they can. And they definitely have the strength and numbers to catch up. It's only a matter of time.
And here's Austin Reedy, the Charlie Meyer Photography onboard look with his Ford Mustang. Sits in 26 right now and was part of that big one incident in the first 10 laps. There's Cody Kinsey, who kind of started it right in front of him. And Reedy had been on a trail, a mission to get right over that cut line last week at Texas Motor Speedway. And in 4 of his last 5 starts, he's finished in the top 5, and now there's a crash again. It appears Craig Parks may have found trouble near the outside wall. We're going to stay green. Lots of damage to his Chevrolet.
It's one of the guys in a must-win situation, and that 17 car, he came into today 18th in points and now in trouble. As we get a look to see what happened, they were just single file here. He was sitting in the 23rd spot. You see the big checkup here, huge checkup, and he just got the worst of it. I always hate that in this car. This is the one reason I hate super speedway racing in these cars sometimes, is because of that huge checkup that they produce with guys running up so fast on each other. They close so fast in these next gens, and it's almost impossible to avoid a big checkup like that.
And once there is a slowdown, it's going to ricochet throughout the entirety of that line, and no matter how deep you are in it. And when you're in the situation like Parks, kind of know where to go. You either get shoved out of line, or you find yourself with a car that's unravelable, and you kind of getting to the outside wall with that bit of damage. Craig Parks in trouble there. He'll pick up Tristan Bailey, who found the end-of-line penalty to kick off this race despite qualifying his Ford on pole. And Parks will have to deal with a damaged car until a yellow flag comes out at some point in this race. But looks like no real issues for the front 7 or so. All of them have been able to be okay running single file, and this goes all the way to Jonathan Juergensmeyer in 8th place, Charlie. But are you a bit surprised to see this sort of apprehension from most of the field early? I mean, we did see the big one in the first 9 or so laps, but I mean, to see this big of a gap, nearly 3.5 seconds back to Scott Healy, it's a bit surprising.
Well, you have to wonder if the car leading that line, Scott Healy, if that is potentially I don't see any damage on his car, but you have to wonder if they've fallen so far back and continue to fall, if it is an issue with either the leading car or the pushing car. So it's a big gap between these guys. It was over 3 seconds last time, or at least 2 laps ago. Now it's over 4.3. So is it a pushing issue? Is it a leading car issue? These guys are going to have to figure this out because they're falling way behind.
Well, think about the lap times. 46.6 for Jonathan Juergensmeyer, who's at the tail end of the front 8. The first lap time you see from Scott Healy's Toyota is 47 flat, and then everyone else is just a tad bit faster. So I think, Keelan, this may be an effort to save some fuel. I know we do have a long 120 lap race, but if we do go green long enough, that fuel window will start to kick in. And for a majority of the field that did top off a bit, they can go slightly longer. However, Healy is deciding to bring the rest of the field behind him in this fuel strategy mode to try and beat those top 8. Not from raw pace, but letting this race settle out green and then beating them through strategy.
My brain can't crunch numbers fast enough like that when there's so many laps to go in this thing. But the fuel window does sit right about 30 laps. So if you can cut off a pit stop theoretically if this race was run on raw pace, and that could be what he's doing. But he sits in that position right now, holding everybody back. And I'm sure there's people in that pack who are not happy with them, as that is allowing Trevor Haley and this group of guys to start to pull away.
So it's Haley, Dahari, Rout, D'Elia, Peel, the top 5, and Applin, Green, Juergensmeyer filing out the rest of the top 8. Everyone else in the mid-pack have decided to stay single file behind that leading car, the Season 2 champion, Scott Healy. And as you see from back there, even more distance from the tail car here. For 25th place, Tyler Murray to the next car in line, about 3 seconds back, and Nicholas Baumann with Buckeye Racing's Mikey Neal, and then not stonks, but still kind of stonks in that Ford, the number 77 of Daniel Moore. So if anything, it showed us that that first caution scared a lot of drivers in the field and doesn't give them any motivation nor incentive to run as aggressively up front. And because the fuel strategy is in the cards now, everybody 8th on back is going to start thinking, when is my chance to come down pit road, assuming this race goes green the rest of this stint. And Trevor Haley getting a ton of laps led already. And we've seen some great stuff from Dark Horse Motorsports, Charlie, between Haley, Bauman, Escamilla, and company. They've done such a great job in their first ever seasons, at least most of them. Trevor Haley in that sophomore group with some of the other drivers in this series, but Trevor Haley's impressing early, not in a situation where he'd be challenged by any means, but in a situation where he can get those extra points, and as one of those guys beneath the top 10 in the cut line, this is exactly the situation you need. Lead as many laps as possible and get those points.
Get that extra bonus point for leading the most laps as well. But yeah, these I'm looking at a wide assortment of teams within this top group. We have bits of Drinkin' Bros Racing, bit of KBueno Racing, bit of Stonks Motorsports. So really a lot of guys with not a lot of strength in numbers between this pack in general as compared to the other pack. It's like them pulling away, but also team numbers. I'm not seeing a whole lot of commonality except being between one or two drivers that are flying under the same banners. So this could be, if this was the finish and it was coming down to that'd certainly be interesting. It seems like a lot of the teams are resting in this back half of the field.
You just almost think that Drinkin' Bros Racing, as big of a team as they are, would gather together at the back end of this field and just start saving and start being a little more conservative. That's usually what we see out of that camp. As many drivers as they have, even though they have the strength in numbers by a large margin, they don't necessarily push the issue until those final 25-ish laps when they sort of put themselves in the right moment, let the chaos settle, and once the dust is out of the way, all the DBR Chevrolets are in a place to win. But in this current situation with the big one early on in this race, plenty of those DBR cars are left either by themselves or in a small group of maybe 2 or 3. They're watching the man who's led that DBR team and has given them so much advice, so much learning, is Lawson Peel sitting in 5th with no teammates around him to speak of by any means. His closest teammate is the man you're watching right now, 15th in that paulscars.com Chevrolet of Brandon Banks. So here's a look at the live points as we look at it. And from the big crash, from the laps we've run under green, that is more than enough, Keelan, to get Austin Reedy that 1-point leverage over Michael Newbroff back in 16th now.
Yeah, he just made up that spot up to the 23rd position over the course of this run, and there's a few cars in between them, but you see those two cars on the racetrack, there is a big gap separating them. Michael Newbrougff is leading this pack with Tristan Bailey in the 35, and further up the road, about 6 seconds up the road, is where Austin Reedy is in the corner of 1 and 2. So that is the difference on the racetrack, and for Newbroff, there is no positions to be made directly in front of him right now. So as it stands right now, Reedy's in a great position. If this was 2 laps to go, I'm sure he'd be a lot happier because so much can happen as this race unfolds. But as it stands right now, Austin Reedy looking good.
You got to almost believe, Charlie, that if you're in the position of Austin Reedy, you're sort of thinking to yourself, hey, I have top 5 finishes in 4 of my last 5 races. Why am I not over the cut line by a decent margin already? But it hasn't been mostly the performance lately in the recency bias from Austin Reedy's perspective. It's more so been the amount of starts that he's completed. Austin Reedy does not have a similar amount of starts to a bunch of the guys that are just around him or way above him in the cut line. So it's a matter of making these 4 wide races. Austin has been on and off about making these races on Wednesday nights, and he's just been able to make more of them as of late. So he's trying to make that late push. I think it's good news right now, but he'd like to be a ton of more points away from Newbroff and be a little more safe.
Well, I think it's certainly impressive that with the limited amount of starts that he's been able to make the most out of them. Getting in the top 5, running in the top 5 pretty consistently throughout some of these races and kind of spread out throughout the course of the season and the ones that he's been able to make. So he's definitely made the most of them. But yeah, mathematically, a guy that shows up every week, finishes in the middle of the pack, is going to be around the same as a guy who shows less races but does really, really well. And captures a lot of points. So that's kind of the difference between the situations that some of these drivers are facing. But certainly an exciting driver when he does race.
Well, you think about the amount of starts that most drivers have, and Reedy, is in that same ballpark, but you think of the struggles that he had very early on in this campaign and what he's been able to do since then. A big turnaround for the Delaware native, but right now still a little more work to do if he's wanting to make himself a part of that top 15. There is the main group that just got separated a bit by the lap car of Eric Schaefer, and Lawson Peel had lost out on the battle, dropped back to 7th, and now he's in tandem with his DBR Chevrolet teammate in Schaefer. As we get a look on board, our Charlie Byer photography on board camera with the CVP Chevrolet. Ethan Fonseca Moreno is back in action. And boy, the big what-if story for the Californian Keelan in the fact that he dominated last season, won 5 races en route to his first career 4-wide title. And then this season, it sort of started off strong by the late end of it, and then he just couldn't make the races anymore due to a work schedule conflict. So we have not been able to see Moreno as much as we'd like, but with some car changes and a couple of number changes, Moreno is in this field looking for his first Super Speedway dub, now in 16.
And I don't know about you, but it does not feel like 4 months ago he was racing for the win at Charlotte with his teammate Steven Maggio in there, and that was really the last time we saw him running up front before that work conflict came up. But it's good to see him in the field in those Charlie Bayer Photography colors. Beautiful paint scheme. Charlie, I know you don't really care for your name on the scheme, but I think it looks pretty good, man.
No, it's not that. No, it's not that at all. I think these cars look incredible. It was a surprise when Ethan Fonseca Moreno showed it to me for the first time. I was not expecting that, but these cars sure do look good. Those are my favorite colors, so it works really well. Who knows how much horsepower that's adding or taking away from them, but they certainly look good out there.
You know, sometimes I wish we had a hot mic right before we go live on these broadcasts, because whenever we reveal that there's a Charlie Bayer Photography car on track, it elicits the same reaction out of Charlie. It's a bit of a gasp. It's like surprise, but very happy, unexpected to see it on the racetrack. And when we noted that there were 2 out there, I think the reaction got a little more fun to listen to. Porter, the second CBP Chevrolet out on track, he runs 13th, sitting right behind Brandon Banks. And in a Brandon sandwich, if you will, there's the 6-time winner, Brandon Hawken, right behind with 11 career 4-wide dubs, but none have come at his super speedway. Hawken looking to change that story and make sort of history of his own. They are all trailing Adam Alashire, who has emerged as the leading car. Remember Scott Healy, who had been patrolling this main group. He has since fallen back considerably. And as we see it on the running order, Scott Healy is back in 22nd. So a huge fall off, a shuffle to the outside lane. But as they're saving fuel, Keelan, the last person you want to be is the man leading this group, wasting the most fuel.
Now that is how you burn the most fuel on the racetrack, and you want to avoid that to the best of your ability. As far as burning fuel, leading laps is always good, but it always comes back to bite you at the tail end of the run here on one of these super speedways. And I think the guy in the best position right now is probably that 07 of Route, because he doesn't have to worry about pushing Haley up there, keeping him up to speed, and you're not Haley burning the fuel full throttle around the racetrack. So that's where I always like to be. I like to be running 3rd or 4th in line, just enough to save fuel, but you're not at the tail end of the pack like Lawson Peel, continuously having to counter checkup.
And that's Justin Roth, the 07 car, making his second career 4-wide start. He showed up at Pocono, the Long Pond, Pennsylvania Tricky Triangle, earlier on this year in late February, and unfortunately had a 31st place finish, and part of that was being involved in a crash off of turn number 1. So good to see Rout back in action. Hopefully we'll be able to see him for the rest of these playoffs, but should add another spoiler potential to the field as we see it, because when we look at the playoffs, you know, those 15 are ready to go for the title, but still plenty of non-playoff drivers that want race wins and can easily steal the show, make the party their own. Route running in 3rd, very comfortable, saving fuel behind Gabriel Dahari. It remains this front 7 from 31 laps in the books, now 32 at the virtual Daytona International Speedway. And we really did not expect this to start, Charlie. A strategy race that has the front pack gone by more than at least 7.5 seconds from the secondary group. It is unbelievable to see. Actually now 10.7 seconds, so it is ballooned drastically. We already know what kind of strategies we are expecting to see as these guys are coming down pit road, possibly in about 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, and this gap just keeps growing and growing every lap. It's been a very definitive gap, to say the least. I mean, if this keeps going and there's no yellow flag, these are the drivers that are going to be racing for the win. It's almost going to be impossible for these guys 8th on back to catch them without any sort of yellow flag that's going to restack and reset up this field. But these guys are almost certainly, despite being on different teams, they could be communicating with each other to all come down at the same time for their green flag pit stop and stay together and keep this gap going.
At this point, Charlie, you got to wonder that if you're in this front 7, you can't really go on a different strategy because you are so far ahead of everyone behind in that secondary pack that you're thinking to yourself, you know, if I don't have a teammate or 2 in here, I'm just going to be forced to go with this pack. And at super speedways, that's where we think about the most, Keelan. When coming down pit road, you got to be with a group. You cannot afford to make a mistake on pit road and come out and merge off of turn 2 all by yourself, because numbers matter so much, and even one car can make a big difference in miles per hour down the straightaways. The last thing you want to do is speed on pit road, have an unsafe entry, and at 190 miles an hour coming off of the final corner, going down to that apron, it is not easy to be on the brakes in enough time to get down to that 45 mile per hour speed road limit.
It sure isn't, and this is one of the most simple, but also one of the most tedious pit roads to get on. Not in the sense that it's hard to get on, but in the sense that you're getting all you can get. It's so easy to lock up and speed, or lock up, spin your car out, go through the grass. I mean, there's so many mistakes that can be made, and especially coming back on the racetrack. If you don't come back on with a group of guys, or if you hit on the wrong lap, you don't like if you're a solo guy out there and you don't have your teammates and you don't know how to get back up there, then you're not going to have much fun running around here by yourself. It is such a big speed difference. As we see cracking into the top 10, a dual winner from earlier in the year, Brian Dixon in that 03 car.
And good to see the Buick Esports Chevrolet into action tonight. Haven't seen much of Dixon since the first couple of races of the 2024-25 season, but good to see Dixon trying to get a win here at Daytona like he did in one of the dual races earlier on in the campaign, right before we kicked off the regular season here at the World Center of Racing. Third in line, right behind a pair of Murray Motorsports Ford Mustangs. Christopher Bishop running 9th, and the leader of this group, Craig Launslager, the Euless, Texas native, running inside the top 8. And for Bishop, he is one of those guys that is near that cut line and pretty far off going into this race, as they all want to the apron, and Craig Launslager is going to spin to the outside wall. He'll catch Brandon Banks with him, and in a peculiar set of circumstances, our second yellow flag rises, and it's from the 13 and the 42. They were teammates getting into each other in turn 3.
And you don't want to see that happen, especially if you do teammates and that turns into more cars getting wrecked. I'd like to see a replay of what that was.
So the 13 car, Launslager blinking in and out a little bit from the internet connection. You'll see him go right under the apron here. Car just goes straight, and Bishop gives him the shove, and by that point, Launslager is a passenger, goes up into Brandon Banks. That is not what the 5 car needed at this juncture of the race, and he comes to a crawling halt. And we do not see Launslager come back in this thing, so I don't know, Keelan, if there was some sort of hardware gremlin or what, but it seemed really odd for them to go under the apron in turn 3.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It's strange. It's like he had an internet outage and he couldn't see anybody else on the track, so he wanted to get out of the way, but everybody else could see him and ran him over. And it's one of those peculiar deals. I mean, I know if I'm Bishop and I'm in that position, I've been in that position where you can't see as much as you think you do. You can kind of see the yellow line, but it's hard to really tell when the point to turn into the corner is when you're directly behind somebody on their bumper. So maybe his eyesight was plagued a little bit, but just odd set of circumstances there. And Brandon Banks, he got tagged along in it a little bit, and that's a guy on the cut line. So interesting set of circumstances there. Good for Craig Lautensager on his part, though. He's already good in the playoff battle, so it's not like he came into today stressing too hard. So at least he has that going for him. But that's a weird one. I don't know if I've ever seen that one before.
Well, now he's going to be the 4th DNF car here in the first 37 laps from Daytona. So it breaks up the potential green flag strategy we were going to have in the several laps that followed. And Trevor Haley, Gabriel Zahari, Justin Rao will bring the field onto pit road. It is feeding time at the zoo. Everyone is going to want a splash of fuel and potentially some Goodyear Eagles to go with them. There goes Trevor Haley into his stall, and everyone is in lap 38. Who emerges first?
And that 10, almost 12-second gap between the first group and the second has completely erased as a result of this yellow flag. I don't even know if all the cars were able to catch up before they got into the pit lane, but coming off of pit road, it's going to be really stacked up coming in this restart. Everybody's going to be next to each other now.
And Trevor Haley comes out as the fastest, 12.1 seconds in his box.
it does look like several 4-tire pit stops taken on this time, though, with 14 seconds. So I guess people do want Eagles on their car here. Even at Daytona, where you don't think tires wear as much, it can still help with handling when you're shifting in and out from different lines and in between packs. There's still that little benefit to it. It may be minuscule here compared to other racetracks, but tires are important anywhere you go.
So our second caution weighs at lap number 38 here from the virtual Daytona International Speedway. Lots of playoff conversations to talk about. Lots of racing still to go. 120 laps and 300 miles here from Daytona. And we will enter a break, and you won't miss a thing here on the KBueno Racing Network for race number 21 of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the World Center of Racing and Daytona.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
And back live from the virtual Daytona International Speedway as we are 39 laps in the books to our final regular season race. Thank you all for joining us on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno joined alongside by Charlie Byer and Keelan Belsha. And we've had a very random Daytona race to start, to say the very least. We had a big one inside the first 10 laps of the green flag race. And then from there on out, it became a duel from the first 8 cars single file to the rest of the field single file. The gap as high as nearly 11 seconds between the two groups. They were entering green flag stops before Craig Launslager and Christopher Bishop found trouble. Entering turn 3, Launslager has since disconnected from the session and he is out of the race. We'll take a look at live points right before we go green. And it is still cutthroat between Michael Newbraw and Austin Reedy. The slimmest of margins between those two. They haven't had the greatest races tonight. Can they turn things around as the field is jumbled up for this next green flag wave? Trevor Haley has led a majority of the laps tonight. He's got rookie Dusty Applin to the outside of row 1. Green flag in the air. Restart number 2 of the night.
A really good jump for Haley here. We'll see if Applin can hang, but his ditch immediately helped him. Or, sorry, his help immediately ditched him, and that will settle him back in the third spot. Dahari at least let him in there as they start to single file out very quickly. We've seen that on just about every restart since the initial start of the race, Kenneth, a third of the way home as they start to single file out. They're being very relatively chill up front for the most part here, but we do see a top line maybe start to develop. That looks like Adam Alishire leading it, and he gets turned.
And Alishire spins. There goes Jurgensmeyer, and there goes everyone else. Applin, Reedy, and several others find themselves in the mess. Tyler Murray spins late. And Michael Newbraw might be involved in this too. So the playoff cut line drivers find the mess on the super stretch as it all started with the outside leading car and the Sunbury, Ohio native of Adam Alishire. There he is, damaged albeit in his Hardee's Toyota Camry. We'll see if we can get a better look at how this all transpired as they were coming out of turn 2. This was fresh off the restart, by the way, Charlie. What happens here?
You see what happens as they come off of turn number 2. These guys are pushing each other as hard as they can, and you have to remember that these bumpers are curved. You can just easily get somebody in the wrong spot and get them turned around. That might be what happened here. Just a little bit of a misstep on that 14 and the the 91, the connection between them both, and that's havoc ensuing, cars piling in. It's so hard to react to these crashes that are happening right in front of you, especially on a restart where you're just trying to go. You're trying to get as many spots as you can as a result of either a bad pit stop or just trying to improve your track position. So it's going to be a little bit of a misstep between these drivers that's going to take a lot of them out.
And poor Dusty Applin had backed down just to try and merge with the rest of the field. Here's a great look from Brandon Gillis, somehow emerging in the middle of the parted seas as they were getting around and spinning all over the place. A great avoidance by Gillis and a terrible situation for Applin right on the front row as soon as we got the restart. And that's a typical action to make on the super speedways, Killen. Sometimes when you're running up front and the driver thinks, maybe I'm not so confident to run up here, or I really want to evade the chaos, they will drop down under the double yellow line and then rejoin at the back of the pack just to ensure that they don't get into crashes. I think Applin chose probably the worst time to do it, just got really unlucky, and now the other playoff contenders possibly got involved in that. Reedy and Newbraw, the most prominent.
Yeah, and that was Newbraw who tagged Applin, who was backing out of the situation there. So there's going to be damage on that 6-car. Austin Reedy, he got up in the fence. Didn't look like it was too terrible for him. So maybe he can get in and out pretty quickly, and that is what he's going to be hoping for in that Flow Racing Mustang. Sit there and take some damage repairs. So hopefully not too much for these guys. It didn't look like a ton of just hard hits, but these next gens, they hide their damage pretty well. I mean, it's all internal stuff as we see the swarm of cars that have visited pit road.
Let's see if we can get a word with our in-race reporter, Francisco Bacchial.
Francisco,
Francisco, do you got a copy?
I do.
All right, well, Francisco, I know, again, the bad luck is stricken a lot of the drivers here tonight early. The big one on the back straightaway to kick off the race, and then this most recent caution that just came out. What has the experience been like from the driver's perspective on your end?
Well, it's actually relatively positively speaking. The car, even though it had about 5.5 minutes of optionals after that initial wreck, it wasn't too killed. The steering was straight. Everything was intact, so I was able to fix a good bit of it, and it was drafting well. Had some really good help from Rivers Jones and just keeping some speed up. And now I find myself in a situation where I almost have all my damage fixed, and I'm looking to try and be competitive again in the second half of this race.
What did you notice there from that second run? Because we saw things get packed up really quickly on the opening run before the caution, but then a second group emerges, and all of a sudden you're in a pack trying to save fuel and catch up with everyone else at the same time. What was that like?
That was the first real extended run that I even had in the race besides that opening run. So and I had the damaged race car, so I wasn't really able to learn much, really. But I felt like that opening run taught me more about how the car was going to drive and how this pack was going to feel like, especially since the updates they made to this next-gen car. It's just, it's unfortunate to have been involved in that incident. I feel like I was partially at cause. I wasn't trying to take the 14 on the outside like that. It's just an awkward spot opened up there, and I think him and the 97 misaligned, and that sent everybody around. And unfortunately, when I spun down the track, it collected Steven and basically ended his race, so it's unfortunate. But we do have still about 75-ish laps to go when we go green here, so there's still plenty of time to go, and I have, I think, only 25 seconds of damage repair remaining on my race car, so there's still plenty of opportunities to make something happen.
All right, well, one last question before we let you bounce into the driver's chat again. You're repping the Boeing car tonight. Best Boeing plane? Go.
Wow, okay, putting me on the spot. Are you asking me on my personal preference or what I think based off statistics?
Personal preference.
It's got to be the 737, man. The most reliable plane out there of the airliners. Give me the Boeing 737-8.
All right, I like it. What, Charlie, your take?
I like the Boeing 737-8. That would be my answer. Maybe a few years ago, but I've actually become a fan of the Maxes. So Max 10.
Okay.
That's a good choice. Good choice.
All right, not bad. Still in the family, though. Still in the 737
yes.
family. So
absolutely.
Good call, guys. Francisco, best of luck as we get to the next restart. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.
So he will join the rest of his KBueno Racing teammates. A very large group of guys in that voice chat, all trying to culminate a plan to get to the front. But right now they are chasing Trevor Haley and Justin Rout, who will lead us back to the green flag restart at lap number 44. We're talking about Boeing 737s here. I think it's the same favorite plane for a good old name, Parker White. as we've talked to him a couple of months ago. But Trevor and Justin will bring us to the green. Pace car is down, and as they enter the tri-oval and the Geico restart zone, restart in control of the Indiana native. Green flag back in the air.
It's going to have help from Jaden Porter, our regular season champion here in that 28. You see D'Elia immediately drop to the bottom. We'll see if Rout can follow suit. He will, and that's going to start to stack people up just a little bit. Looks like they can keep it all under them, but you see a quick move to single file off these restarts. It's like people know that is where the speed is. That is the only way to get around with survival. Nobody wants to race too hard. Everybody running the bottom. We do see that further back, they all are starting to migrate to the bottom. They tried to make the middle work, the top work earlier, and that incident with Adam Alishire was caused. So, ooh, big stack up there, right there. That was Austin Reedy right in the middle of it, and there goes Daniel Moore in the 77. Great save by him. Everybody's going to keep it underneath him, but the caution is out again. Great save from that 77, though.
Now, Moore was just hanging onto it right at the apron. Yellow flag waves again. And we will stack them up and do it once more. Here's a look at how it all started with Moore's Ford Mustang, and you noticed it, Keelan, the big checkup on the super stretch. Austin Reedy following in that silver and black Toyota Camry that Scott Healy up the road. And then Moore gets slowed down. Cody Kinsey's trying to rejoin the lane, and they stack up in front, so it gets Moore out of shape. A bump from Gillis once, then a bump from him twice. And then in the middle of the track, nearly perpendicular, no one else gets into the incident, and Moore does a whale of a job to save that car. Not many drivers can keep that car collected as fast as it's going when it's at that angle, especially with all that underbody downforce, but a great job by Daniel Moore. Keeps this race mostly clean and keeps his car from getting destroyed.
And these stack-ups are just really, really brutal for these guys, as evidenced through the crashes over the course of this first half of this race. And it's just so hard to react when it happens so quickly. And on these restarts, when you're just gassing up as much as you can to get as much track position as possible. It's just unfortunate that it's been able to take out as many cars as it did, but certainly a lot of clean drivers here that are still ready to race.
So another yellow flies, and Trevor Haley will enjoy some more laps up front. Well, I did notice, Keelan, was that now with the most recent caution flag, it brought up a bunch of drivers that didn't see the light of day in that first stint, and now being able to run inside the top 10 easily. Jaden Porter finds his way to a race-high second place. Look at Kevin D'Elia, didn't find him much throughout tonight's event, and he's up here. Brandon Hawken, who was basically involved in that big one in the opening stretch of the race, he's here now, and back in 8th place is where you find the other 4-wide 5-year anniversary Ford of Kyle Benson. And I want to just throw this out to you guys while we're under yellow, and I'll start with you, Keelan. I know you haven't been covering 4-wide as long as, let's say, Francisco and I have since the dawn of 2021, but in the time that you've been a part of the series broadcasting, what has been your favorite memory, either on or off the track?
Oh, man. That is a tough one, Kenneth. I think I have to default to the championship broadcast last year. It was my first time really getting my toes wet here with 4-wide, and it put on one of the greatest races that I've ever seen in league racing, especially for a championship between Peel and Moreno. It was just a couple points separating them. I think that's going to be one I default to, but there have been so many great moments. I know me and you, I don't know about you, I had a blast at Watkins Glen earlier this season. It was just me and you in the booth, and that was in the middle of hurricane season. I think we had a little bit of a segment on that, but that was a good one. That was a great one. I like when it's all of us up here having a great time. I like when Charlie's here too, and Francisco's on the track. We get to follow him. It's a fun time, but it's so hard to pick just one, Kenneth. There's so many little moments that I have enjoyed, great memories, especially I think as of recent, these voice chats that we have after the broadcast, after the arc. It's one of my favorite things that we do. So one of the highlights of my week.
You know, the viewers of the KBueno Racing Network won't know about those conversations that happen after. Everyone gathers up and we just kind of have fun and just chat it up all night after the show is over. Charlie, what is your favorite 4-wide memory?
And Keelan already mentioned it, but that championship broadcast was a lot of fun and such a special moment. It was a kind of a full circle moment. We had all 4 people in the booth. Our face cams were on. We're all suited up and commentating a great race together. That was always be a special moment in such a long history of us 3, including Francisco being friends. That was a fun one. terms of recent battles, I think one of my first races that I participated on KBueno with this series was Iowa. A really, really great battle between Gabriel Dahari and Brandon Hawken, two racers that have raced really clean with each other, as evidenced by some of the streams on this channel. That was a lot of fun and a lot of high spirits between both of them, especially Brandon Hawken after that race. So a really lighthearted battle that put on a great show for us.
Yeah, it's a great call. I have to agree. I think the Season 6 championship race brought everything and more. The emotions of the friendship between all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, and just going back in the memory banks at how far we've come since we started back in 2020. The evolution of the series, the competition, and the championship fight itself, coming down between those simple points between Peel and Moreno. Probably one of the greatest ever four-wide championship battles that we have ever seen, even though, you know, it is hard to complain about all the other seasons and how they've ended. A lot of those championship finales have come down to the wire. I'd say that if I had a favorite memory, I would look to this season, honestly, given the situations that we've seen. And honestly, you look at some of the races like Chicagoland and Charlotte, probably some of the favorite races that I've ever covered broadcasting this series, because the racing was phenomenal, the level of respect was out there, and the storylines were plentiful. So being with you guys is the best part about it. So we're going to continue to honor our memories of 4-Wide throughout its 5-year history. April 2nd, today, the day that Roman Long decided to make this series a reality and get all of these guys together. It's expanded, competition has grown, and the stakes have gone even higher, which makes this regular season finale oh so compelling to watch, as we'll strap up for our restart at lap 48. Trevor Haley has led 13 career 4-Wide racing laps, and tonight he's got 41. Jaden Porter will be on the outside of the front row, and the Ford Mustang will take us back green flag racing for the restart.
This is a much more competitive jump on the outside for Jaden Porter, but his help and Kevin D'Elia drop down to the bottom. Can Lawson Peel in the 12 close up to maybe help him? No, he goes to the bottom as well. So everybody just saying the heck with it. They're trying to get single file and get some laps in, but I don't know. I feel like getting single file was the product of what caused the last one, because everybody's trying to drop low and start such a heavy checkup. We're going to have to get that top line to work if we want to keep this thing caution-free for the most part, and just stay easy on each other, but pushing. It's so important in these cars to keep the speed up. We'll see how Benson and Porter, two of the heavyweights this season, fare up on the top side of the racetrack. Benson's teammate and Bishop right behind him.
Yeah, and on the bottom, particularly with the long line of cars off the restart, is where we've seen the most amount of trouble, and the same goes for those first several guys on the high side. You get a faulty push or two, and all of a sudden the cars are unraveled all over the speedway, and they can easily come back down the banking and get into those cars running single file on the bottom. As the Charlie Beyer Photography Chevrolets get together, those are the BBR teammates, Jaden Porter and Ethan Fonseca Moreno, trying to provide some life to the outside off turn 2.
About that, it's still a little bit jarring seeing my name so big on the side of a car, but those cars do look amazing, especially with two of them. It almost looks like a Formula One race. But to your point, Kenneth, they're on the outside, and they're only separated by one driver before another BBR teammate, and I believe that's actually Mikey Neal in that number 88. So we have 4 drivers all working together on the high line, just one car separating them. That's Juan Escamilla. I believe actually that's incorrect. You can correct me there. That is the 42 car of Christopher Bishop. But these BBR drivers are starting to line up on the top line, and they're getting ready to go.
And Mikey Neal, you're watching him there in that fight for the playoff cut line. Keelan in a better spot than most, but still not relatively safe going into tonight's race at Daytona International Speedway, trying to conjure up some of the Junebug magic with that 2014 Daytona 500 winning paint scheme for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the NASCAR Cup Series. He runs currently inside the top 12 and just sits behind that KBRN Ford Mustang of Jonathan Juergensmeyer. Neal, the Wake Forest, North Carolinian, at 22 years old. And if you recognize that name, you may have seen him in the 2017 eNASCAR Ignite Series that bred some of the biggest names in the sport in eNASCAR and in real-life racing. Some of those names include Raja Karuth, fellow NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver, and Mikey at the moment doing the best he can to maintain the momentum on this outside lane. Porter has gotten as high as 4th place to battle with. That's Brandon Hawken, the Sugar Punch Chevrolet on the inside. Or Sucker Punch Chevrolet, and here comes Porter looking for the lead, maybe second, and now here comes Justin Rao, top spot taker to turn 3.
That's the first real competition Trevor Haley has had since he got out there. Everybody was kind of chill and content where they were as Route takes the lead. Those two Charlie Bayer photography cars going to settle in right behind him. That's going to be a great picture for you to take, Charlie. You talk about photography, get a picture of those two cars nose to tail. They're having a great run on the top side as Route gets to the race lead. We talk about rookies and first-time winners in their rookie season and how it's so common here in 4-wide. Justin Route trying to add his name to that list.
And running up front, the CBP cars looking picture perfect. The onboard look from the Guadalajara native initially, now residing in California, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, as he gives the whale of a push to Porter, who gives the push to Route. And again, Moreno in contention to win at Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier this season, and yellow flag will fly. Daniel Moore appears to have been involved potentially, and there are some cars sliding through the grass, and Gabriel Zahari is one of them. No real damage to his Chevrolet, but they may catch some others. Kyle Benson had a piece of this potentially as well. So we got a secondary look at how this all transpired. Dahari, a race high second, and potentially a checkup. There was a spinner, and that's Lawson Peel going for a spill on the back straightaway, sliding through the grass and hitting the inside wall. So Charlie, this gets much more dramatic than just a simple checkup and some drivers getting hit here and there. Lawson Peel in the midst of the front pack either got helped. Yep, there it is. Just a contact from Christopher Bishop getting turned.
Yeah, and that started from the top line and ended up ricocheting into Lawson Peel. Very unfortunate that he struck the inside wall so hard, but looked like a missed push between Christopher Bishop and that number 70 of Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Started on the top line, got hooked up just a little bit wrong, and got sent to the number 12.
Tough break for Lawson there, who goes into this race just wanting a bit of success after a couple of races where he's finished well, but he has not won a race in a little while. And for the Columbus, Mississippi native, he will have to try and charge from the back of this field. Car will most likely come down pit road. And now this jumbles up the playoff picture because we've seen almost everyone around that cut line, Keelan, get in some sort of crash tonight, whether it was that big one to kick us off, or the secondary crash later on, and even then this most recent incident catching some guys off guard as Justin Route will bring the field in on pit road. It appears everyone will find themselves in at lap 53.
Everybody going to come in, service their cars, get fuel, do what they have to do to get this thing to the next time around pit road. Not quite halfway through this thing, as Route looks like he went fuel only. I figure that may be what a majority do here. He's going to maintain the race lead. Haley comes out in third there, Hawk in fourth. As they come off the racetrack, 6.7 seconds on pit road for Justin Route. So a pretty quick pit stop for him. And fuel only looks to be the call up and down pit road for the most part.
6.5 for Porter, 6.8 for Trevor Haley, 6.4 for Hawken, and the list goes down the running order. You won't get an over 10-second pit stop until you get to Moreno, 14.1, and with that longer pit stop, he relinquishes a top 3 spot and falls all the way back to 16th. So he will give this one up for the moment as we try to approach halfway with the rookie Justin Route in front. Now, we are in that situation to where the contingency plan will come into effect, and after lap number 60, that's where we will have the official decision as to whether this race will continue or not. Thankfully, we haven't had any mass disconnections from the storm. I believe the only peculiar disconnection and instance we've seen on the track was with Craig Lautenslager, but until we get the official word on what happened with Craig there entering turn 3, we may just attribute it to either a storm or just a hardware problem, but we haven't had disconnections yet to enable us to have a level of concern that will give us a shot to end this race early. But for right now, we are approaching lap 60, which means as soon as we get over that threshold, this race will be run to the checkered flag no matter what. And thankfully, a lot of the guys who are fearing getting hit by these severe storms, they have stayed in this race. Most notably, Jaden Porter was kind of joking to us a little bit earlier, Keelan, about whether he was going to get either hit first by a tornado or get hit by the big one in this race. Thankfully, he's missed most of them, and he's now running second as we get the restart. We'll double them up.
Certainly will, and that's going to bring us to another restart. New leader on the restart for the first time. We will see how that will shape things up here. Brandon Hawken up here. He's trying to go for 4 in a row, Kenneth, and that's kind of been the unspoken storyline that has gone on tonight. 4 in a row. I know 3 in a row was the first time in 4 seasons that it had been done. What would 4 in a row be? Has 4 in a row ever been done?
That has never been done.
As far as you can recall?
I looked back in history just to make sure the stat was correct. You know, Francisco brought it up at the tail end of the Texas race, but I just wanted to look and make sure that even before Colin Forrester did it in the first 3 races of his 4-wide career, which is a whole different story in its own right, whether anything before had ever happened like that. And the answer is no. We've never seen 3 in a row prior to season 3. We never saw 4 in a row, and we've never, to this day, seen 4 in a row by a driver in the Cup Series, or at least the premier level of 4-wide racing. There have been some stints of 4-wide ARCA, 4-wide truck in the first couple years of its existence, but now that we've settled into this premier 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series, we've never seen that accomplishment. And like Hawken did earlier on this season, he proved us wrong. You know, we had a couple of wins on his tally where a lot of them came down to late race yellows, flurry of cautions. He had to just stay up front and execute the restarts, and then dominated long green flag stretches and said, hey, I can do that too. I'm an all-around driver. But he's never won on a super speedway, so this could change everything if Hawken is able to win. Ready for the restart. Lap 56, Justin Rout, the rookie, is the man in control as we'll get ready for another edition of Green Flag Racing, potentially a long green flag run, as long as we still look forward to it, with Justin Rout in the 07, the head honcho on the outside lane, giving us a shot at what we could expect off of turn 2. Green flag raises, Geico restart zone passed, and the Body Armor Chevrolet gets us underway. He's got at least a 2-car length gap to Brandon Hawken. He'll switch down the bottom and pick up Jaden Porter before turn 1.
Rout's going to pull forward here. Hawken now the one left out to dry on the outside. See if anybody's going to leave him a hole to come down. That is one guy you would like to have friends with if it comes down to the end of this. He always seems the way to find his way towards the end of these races. He was right there at Talladega in that battle with Lance Hill and Brandon Manx as they start to single file out. Jaden Porter right on Rout's bumper. And Trevor Haley sitting back there in 3rd. Yerg right behind him in the 4th position. These BBR cars are strong.
They haven't quite worked together, at least not in a huge capacity yet. We saw Moreno and Porter get nose to tail for a moment, 2nd and 3rd, but since Moreno gave up that track position, it is a who's who of drivers inside this top 10. Kyle Benson has found his way to get back up with the field, and remember that slight mishap that he had earlier tonight, lost the track position. Well, he's now inside the top 5, so good news for him as we move forward. Brandon Hawken and Kevin D'Elia lead the rest of the group, and how about the man sitting in 8th, Charlie Byer, the guy who started on the outside of the front row and then got involved in the opening lap 9 or so caution on the racetrack, and the Keystone Heights, Florida native has just stepped into 8th place with the Sharpie car.
Pretty good run here for him, sitting single file inside that top 10. Another driver 2 spots behind him, that's Nicholas Baumann, involved in another crash as well. So a lot of these guys are starting to make up these places. We're about to approach halfway through this race, so why not consider this a reset? You're in almost where he was to start this race, and he's got a clean car in a great spot with a lot of good people around him. So as we approach this last half of this race, let's hope, or he's definitely going to hope that this turns into something good for him.
Great point about Nicholas Baumann there, who has been through it all almost tonight, Keelan, and we're not even halfway. Baumann has been able to see crash after crash and then decent run after decent run, and all of a sudden here just bikes himself in the top 10 with Scott Healy, the Season 2 champ, right in front. We saw Baumann finish 23rd in our last Super Speedway race at the virtual Talladega Super Speedway, but to this day, his best 4-wide finish came right here back in mid-September of 24, 5th place after rolling off in P4. Very strong outing for the Dark Horse Motorsports Chevrolet. He's got Dahari in tow, and no one yet, Keelan, has been able to move up to the outside lane, but with these yellows, it has jumbled up the point standings, and Austin Reedy once again has headway on Michael Newbraw, but it may not last for long.
Well, he is 13 points to the good as it stands. Ever since Newbrow got involved in that yellow a little bit earlier, he's been struggling to make up track position, holding right around that 30th to 31st place spot. Reedy, though, he's steadily climbed his way through the field, and he has been in the thick of almost every incident in that 34 car. Every time we see a replay of what happened, Reedy was right there, had a bird's eye view to it. He's done a good job staying out of most of the trouble for the most part, though, but it is a 13-point gap. That means Reedy is making up 18 points on Newbrow throughout this night to this point. He only needs 6 of them to officially himself in, so looking good right now. But if we get a new winner who is eligible for the playoffs, that moves that cut line up to the battle between Reedy and Banks, and that's going to be a very hard one for Reedy to overcome without a race win. So I think if I'm Austin Reedy, I'm just hoping we don't get a new winner, because you're in a pretty good spot right now with Newbrow down on power further back there.
And you're also hoping that you find some of your teammates, which you're looking at some of them right now. Tyler Murray just picking up his fellow friends, Tristan Bailey and Craig Lounslogger. So thankfully Lounslogger has found his way back in this deal and is not officially a DNF tonight. And the league owner from Delaware will try to push himself to the front of this secondary pack. And if you look at the paint scheme, you'll see that there is a tribute going on for the colors on that 36 Ford Mustang. That is the exact same scheme that Tyler drove to victory here at Daytona back in Season 2 of this 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And he makes history becoming the driver to make his 18th 4Wide start here at Daytona. Has an average finish of 13.8 at the World Center of Racing and currently runs inside the top 25. Maybe call him Unk Charlie in this series.
Well, that's certainly a nickname that we toss around with you, but yeah, almost the lifespan of KBueno as well, starting in 2020. So it's almost synonymous. It's almost a storybook to be approaching what I assume to be almost 5 years of KBueno as well. So it's a great story and a great shot or a great tribute on the bumper of these cars. I know that the colors specify how long each driver has been with the series, but on the bumper of these 4Wide TJ's Team Series tribute cars, there is a lot of names written out to represent those who have stuck with the series for so long.
Lots of OGs on there, from Tyler to Kyle to Craig to, I mean, you think of the entire Murray Motorsports camp, and those are the founding fathers of this series. They have been around since the series had its dawn in 2020, and even then a bit of 2021. Good look from Brandon Hawkins Chevrolet as he pushes Benson through to 5th place right now. In the single file train up front as Trevor Haley and Justin Rout and Jaden Porter continue to man the top 3. But it's a nice little touch that Craig added to this paint scheme, and he will release a unnumbered version of this 4Wide anniversary scheme to the rest of the server once this Daytona race is complete. So really cool stuff for Lounslogger to get in on the celebration of this series and how long it's been. I mean, it's crazy to think back in February of 2021, I got asked to do this series. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it on Wednesday nights. Got to know Tyler and the rest of the crew, and the bond started from there, moving from Max Speed TV to the KBueno Racing Network, and the relationship continues as strong as ever, and the coverage and the racing continues to amp up in intensity and fun. So it's been an honor to cover this series since 2021 and to keep it pushing forward. Well, guys, and specifically Keelan here, I don't know if we're going to see another long green flag strategy race, because we have yet to see anybody go up high. You look at this main pack, and it's definitely deeper in its bag than what we saw earlier in this race with maybe 7 or 8 cars, but do you think we're going to end up in another fuel strategy run as of now?
I mean, it's so hard to crunch these numbers. We were looking at about a 28 to 32 lap fuel window, so it just depends when we make that move down pit road. Right now, it's looking like a pretty straightforward 2-stopper, unless you save fuel, because we restarted a few laps before that window would really open for a 1-stop. But if you can make the stop around lap 88, 89, there may be a chance you can stretch it to the ends. But the way we have seen these super speedway races end, they are no stranger to overtime restarts, and those usually throw strategy out the window. But if we came down to one where we had to save our way to the checkered flag, I also wouldn't be surprised, because that's just how these races go. That's how I won my only NIS race, was in the Daytona 500 on fuel strategy. I just barely had enough to make it to the ends, and I got off pit road in a good position. So that's really all it takes. You just need to be in the right spot at the right time. So I don't know, Kenneth. It just depends how hard these guys are saving in this pack and how the lap times are looking, because the window is always open for a chance at a different strategy, but you also have to have that strength in numbers. You have to have other guys doing that strategy with you. If you're the only one, you're not going to be able to survive as far as lap time goes. So I think that really kills the element of doing anything other than a two-stop.
And you're right, though. Every driver is on edge at least a little bit about what strategy could unfold, or even if the strategy happens at all. The last time we had a green flag strategic race to the finish at a super speedway, it was that Talladega race late in season 6 where Tyler Murray was able to take the victory. But from there on out, at least for our last 3 Daytona races, all of them have ended under at least one overtime finish. So you got to think this one probably, much like the others in recent history, will go down as a 2-lap to go restart. And when we kicked off the season in mid-September, Steven Stepien got the win via a messy restart with 2 laps to go, and it was also an overtime extender. So as we approach about 50 laps to go from Daytona, should be in the minds of the drivers, at least in the back of their minds, that overtime may occur, and you may just prep for at least a 2-lap dash to the finish, but still a long way to go. Inside line patrolled by the 07 of Justin Rout. No real contention past the top 5, but the first battle is persisting through the top 15. AJ Green steps into 10th, working the high line with Timothy Cook to help. And now here comes Benson. Saw enough of that outside momentum and said, I want a piece of the pie. He'll get the shove from the 48 Chevrolet. May back out some other drivers from the line. But Kyle Benson, who has led a ton of laps here at Daytona in his 4-wide career, will try to get back to the very spot that he occupied last season off the final corner. He'll get the run off of the 31 degrees of banking, and the 4-wide 5-year anniversary Ford Mustang gets his way to 4th. The onboard look from the Pennsylvania native sees him surge to 3rd place.
And you talk about a race win that would completely shape a season and shape a team's season and their outlook for the rest of this one. A win for Murray Reedy Motorsports would be huge. As you see the look back from Justin Rout, Porter kind of bouncing out of line, kind of doing that, keeping some air in his nose, but Kyle Benson, with the help of AJ Green, is going to surge ahead to the race lead and take the lead in a race that he won last year, as AJ Green helps him out. Timothy Cook in that 19 car tucked in right behind him. Good to see that 19 car running up front.
And for the first time, Charlie, we've got side-by-side action for the lead. When was the last time we expected this? I mean, lap 9 when the caution came out, we have not seen the field this bunched up in a while. We got used to the single file action. AJ Green takes the lead. Timothy Cook will give him the push to get there, but Benson goes down low and actually deals some damage to the front end of Justin Rout's Chevrolet. Could that be a problem for the rookie off turn 4?
It's almost mythical seeing these guys side by side here, but it's a great sight approaching, or excuse me, as we embark on the latter half of this race. These guys are fighting for every position right now, and the energy is increasing. This is the time to go for a lot of these guys, because we're going to approach pit road territory, or green flag pit stops territory. These guys are going to get themselves in the best spot possible, but that does seem to be some damage on the front of the 48.
It's a bit peculiar because he hit him at a pretty decent rate of speed, but you wouldn't think it's enough to get him in trouble. Chris Fowler is hard into the outside wall, all by his lonesome off of turn 2, and the toe link is destroyed on the Mavis Tires Toyota. Denny Hamlin colors on Fowler's machine, his second start, first since Dover. And Fowler will not bring out the yellow flag. He will stay on the track for minimum speed. But Keelan Belcher, that was a huge hit for Fowler's car, and he will be out of this one early.
Yeah, a very hard hit. That right front destroyed these next gens. If you damage those toe links, it really takes you out of contention. But back up front, it is Kyle Benson in the 38 car who has taken the lead away. And we talked about it on the pre-race show. This is going to be one of those guys that we have to keep our eye on because of how good Murray Reedy Motorsports is at this type of racetrack, especially when they work together. You see Tyler Murray he's right behind Brandon Hawkin there. I think that's about 6 positions. So they have started to work their way up front. They were just a couple cars separated from their teammate Kyle Benson as he made the surge for the lead, but we're coming to 50 laps to go now, and Kyle Benson in the race lead. What what a win this would be for confidence, Kenneth. I mean, he's had a great regular season. He just hasn't been able to get the race wins, and it's hard to feel like you're a guy who can compete with the Hawkins and the Peels and Porters when you've been the only one running up there unable to get a race win. So it would just be a huge confidence booster as we see the field start to migrate to the top side of the racetrack. Benson going to hop up in front of him and take that momentum away, as he's going to maintain the race lead. Jaden Porter now tucked in right behind him.
And the notion of super speedway racing at your best is to know when the runs are going to get you. And Jaden Porter got a push from Trevor Haley and said, let's jump out the rocket. But it helps Benson pick up his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate and league owner Tyler Murray. So we'll get the 38 car back to the front despite Porter's best attempts. And Murray wants the lead. Trial will look to the inside for the top spot in turn 1.
Tyler Benson trying to defend a race win at this exact track, at this exact event. 1 season ago, he's going to duck down back to the inside ahead of his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate. And these two cars with the same number font are working really well together as we approach lap number 73.
Kyle Benson has led 100 career Daytona laps in his 4-wide tenure. Now make that 101 and counting. Bit of a swerve back there from Dusty Applin. They're getting around the lap car, Francisco Bacalhau. But what a move to the front for Tyler Murray. And he's helping his teammate now, but he wanted the lead so bad. Killen going into turn 1, had the momentum through the tri-oval, used the run off of the banking to look to the inside. And while Porter didn't give him the help necessary to beat Benson off of turn 2, it's enough to get Murray Reedy Motorsports 1-2 on the racetrack. Similar look to what we saw last season that helped Benson get to the front and to the win.
These are two best friends that clap at each other all the time, but they always seem to find each other on the racetrack here at races like this. Remember, they were there racing Steven Stempien for this race win earlier in the season, the opening race of the season. We were that close to seeing one of these cars in victory lane, and they ended up getting into each other, taking each other out, and that handed the win to Steven Stempien. They tried to avoid that here, but you know how hungry both these guys are for the win. Kyle Benson, even though he's in the playoffs, I don't think he would just roll over for Murray to get him in. But I said it last week, there may be nothing more dangerous than Tyler Murray with nothing to lose and everything to gain. That 36 car has showed that he will do the opposite strategy as he stuck 3 wide on the top right here. Benson's going to have to abandon him for his own self-gain, but he's shown that he would do anything on the racetrack to get a race win. We saw it in the All-Star race earlier this year. He was the only guy, or one of the few guys, to stay out on no tires and try to have a shot just to win that one. So he's hungry. Benson's hungry. Those are two teammates who are working really hard as these top two have broken away.
And as soon as Murray made the attempted block on Porter's front end of his Chevrolet, it backed everyone up, made them go 3 wide, and now Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who's picked up a couple of top 10s in his 4-wide career, looks for the lead, but Kyle Benson shoots out of nowhere from the outside lane. Trevor Haley will give Benson the shove through the tri-oval, and in an unprecedented set of about 5 seconds, Kyle Benson retakes the lead from Justin Rout and Brandon Hawken, who finished second in his only career Super Speedway 4-wide race, now on the inside, helping Rout to the front.
These are two very strong pushers as Trevor Haley and Brandon Hawken both almost tandem drafting like the old NASCAR days, over a couple car lengths ahead of those two Charlie Byer photography cars sitting in 5th on back. We got a lap car right there. That's the number 17 of Craig Parks, but no issue there. These drivers are pushing as hard as they can on lap number 76.
And for the first time in a while, Keelan, we see those Charlie Byer photography cars in order. Moreno now in front of Porter. They'll swing it high, 3 wide through the high skies of the tri-oval. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer will find himself as the 3rd car in this lane. Tyler Murray deciding, where do I go right now, with Nicholas Baumann at the very back, and in a 2-car tandem now making a trio. KBueno Racing takes 1, 2, 3 in the 2nd corner.
That's how quickly teammates can help each other out here. We saw them get linked up, and then Jurgensmeyer got up there and linked up with them, and that's going to make it a BBR 1, 2, 3. But this is insane racing here at this point in the race. So much shuffling throughout the top 10. It's like taking a deck of cards and shuffling them up, and that is what is going on right now as those BBR guys are going to try to maintain it. Justin Rout, who he's working with the BBR guys tonight, that's also a guy up there. They are working really well together as we speak.
We've got the teammates working in tandem, 3 of them. Now 2 of them controlling both lanes. Porter moves his way to the inside. A smart move to block in front of Brandon Hawkins' momentum that he's got with a teammate right behind him in the not stonks but still kind of stonks Chevrolet of Kevin D'Elia. Quiet driver tonight, one that we haven't talked about over the course of this evening's race. But the driver out of St. Charles, Indiana, is making a name for himself midway. Oh, and a spinner. That's Dusty Applin. Catches Trevor Haley, Murray, and others down the super stretch. Yellow flag flies at lap 78. And a faulty move by Applin and Trevor Haley get them damaged. Race cars on the banking.
And I was just about to mention how this pack, the energy is almost boiling over. It's going to take one wrong move for this compact to completely break apart. And there it was down the Daytona super stretch. That's going to do it on lap number 79.
Damage to Trevor Haley, who's been one of the most dominant cars tonight. And you saw Nicholas Baumann cannot find a way to escape the mayhem. He's been involved in nearly every crash we've seen this evening. And we're going to look at how the Indiana native found himself in the heart of the trouble. So 2x2 coming off of the second corner. And once again, Keelan, the product is a stack up from the outside lane. Pushes Baumann underneath. Gets him to the lower end car of Dusty Applin, who goes up the racetrack into Tyler Murray. There's Mikey Neal, who gets a late piece of it to Applin's side of his Chevrolet, and then Trevor Haley is only able to escape with minimal rear-end damage. He probably got the best situation out of the bunch. But from the situation we see at hand, it is the high momentum and then the space that's limited to go through what stacks everyone up and brings out the yellow flag with a little over 40 laps to go.
Yeah, just a stack up there, it's what happens, and indirectly, looks like teammates may have gotten into each other right there with the help of Dusty Applin. Mikey Neal, another cut line driver, got involved in that one a little bit of a dust up there. Here's a look at Tyler Murray. See Baumann up there. There's just, it's so hard to see in front of you. You can't see what the car in front of the car in front of you is doing. It's just, that's what causes these stack ups. These next gens, they close so quickly, and with the curved noses and everything, that's what leads to these issues, is everybody taking a trip down pit road, and about 40 laps from home. I don't see a world where we can stretch it from here, but you can certainly make that last pit stop very short from here.
And these pit stops will be short as well. Couple seconds for Jaden Porter will get him in and out of his pit stall. Brandon Hawken will look to beat him out there. And for the first time tonight, Brandon Hawken will lead the race off of pit road and will be the leader when we get the next restart at around lap 82 or so. So Hawken with an 11.8 second stop gets everyone else behind him. Kevin D'Elia back in third, Juergensmeyer fourth, and Cody Kinsey to round out the top five. And a great look for all of these cars off of that pit stop. Specifically, Hawken very fast off of his pit box particularly, and he will pick up the iRacing official pace car with 40 laps to go at the stripe. And it's a great point that you make, Keelan, because, you know, from our onboard cameras, we see a lot more than the drivers do. And Charlie, when you're behind the wheel of the car on iRacing, you know, it depends on the field of view settings that you have. It's up to driver preference and up to their specific style of what they like and what they don't like to see when they're behind the wheel with their rig. But when you are pushing a car in front of you with the high spoiler and the width of this race car, given how they widened this car with the next gen era, you can't see a thing. All you see is that front bumper of the car in front, and you don't know what's happening in front of you until you get into the corner, and that's where you have a bit of a vantage point on the left side to see the curve of the race cars going into the turn. So in that case of Murray and even Baumann, you see the checkup happen, you see the car in front of you stack up, and you don't know how to react, so you try to stay in the gas so you don't get left behind by the pack if there is no yellow. But unfortunately, that stuck up is more than enough to spin some cars around and bring us our most recent yellow flag.
And that's what makes these stack ups during this race so brutal, is because, yes, for a car that's so dependent on pushing somebody and staying on their bumper in order to maintain speed, whether you're catching a pack or leading the race, for a car that you have to be that close, yeah, your field of view is almost blocked. Someone could be turning all the way towards the inside of the backstretch wall, and you wouldn't be able to notice because you're using their bumper as a reference for where you're going. And even on the entrance of the corner, before you kind of use your peripheral vision to see the walls, it's still that. So it also, you know, good pushers also come down to a good leading car who's able to stay straight, not veer off too much or saw at the wheel. It takes two people to really, really lock down on pushing in these cars.
So with some of the heavy hitters now put on the back foot, it leaves Brandon Hawken with a chance to lead this race, get some points to his benefit. Not that he doesn't have enough. He's got 18 bonus points and playoff points to his tally, given the 6 wins that he's accrued this year. And he will lead this one back to green with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer to push, Jaden Porter and Kevin D'Elia manning the inside lane. Quite a smart move by Hawken there to eliminate the chance for BBR to work simultaneously on the restart. And so gets one of the not stonks but still kind of stonks teammates to be right behind Jaden Porter, so that either the push isn't as substantial or Hawken could find a way to get right in front of D'Elia and get that tandem working together. We will go green with the under 40 laps to go from Daytona. Like you said, Keelan, we should be expecting at least one more stop before this is over. But the thing you know about Daytona is that it can grant the wishes of some, it could kill the dreams of many. But in one fell swoop, it could give you a whale of an entertaining show. It's the Canadian and Brandon Hawken who will lead us back to the jump. Jaden Porter on the inside. Jurgensmeyer and D'Elia manning row number 2. Justin Rout, former race leader, is in the top 5 with Cody Kinsey, driver who started on the outside of the front row, going to be sitting in P6. Pace cars down. Restart zone left to catch. And Brandon Hawken the man to beat. Jurgensmeyer the push. Green flag.
He was really eager to get on Hawken there. You saw him kind of bang him right before they got to the restart zone there. And Hawken's going to pull out, and you can't get too far out because of how fast they close behind you. You're going to have those 2 BBR cars side by side coming through turns 1 and 2. That is a mess of BBR and BBR affiliated cars right there in the top 10.
Now Jurgensmeyer will fight back on the high side. Justin Rout and Gabriel Dahari giving him the push of the lifetime. And for the first time in a while, Austin Reedy finds himself puncturing the top 10. It's been a minute since we've seen the Delaware native up here at the front. And given all of the things he's had to encounter tonight, he's trying to put that all behind him and get a good run at the end to get him into the 4-wide playoffs. The top 3 with a head of steam coming out of turn 4. They nearly merge to the inside of the racetrack. Jurgensmeyer leads him back to turn 1.
That's a lot of BBR drivers cycling down to the bottom lane here, followed a few rows back by Rivers Jones at number 26. But also you look at the 2 cars on the top line. Those are 2 Murray Reedy Motorsports cars linking up and trying to make a run on the outside. So this is the point of the race where a lot of these guys are really going to try to find their teammates, or people that they at least know well enough to work with and make a run towards the end.
And a look on board with Austin Reedy, and then the look at his perspective playoffs-wise. On the right side of your screen, he's still not above the top 15 in the cut line. This may help him a bunch if he's able to get to the lead and at least lead 1 lap here at Daytona. They are deadlocked for that 15th and final playoff position. As we get down to the final 40 and now 37, big push from Justin Rout. As Austin Reedy will get to his back bumper and they'll chase for turn 1 again. Jurgensmeyer still the leader, but Dahari, Porter, and Hawken giving the pushes. Cannot beat them on the inside lane for now.
How about Jonathan Jurgensmeyer? Ever since he committed to a full-time 4-wide schedule here, he was able to pick up a 6th place finish at COTA, followed up by a career best and first top 5 of his 4-wide career at Dover. Bit of trouble last week at Texas, but he's looking really, really good, leading laps ahead of his KBueno Racing teammates right behind him. And I'm sure they have a lot of trust in him to lead the way, as he's looking really smooth behind the wheel of that number 70.
Since his debut at Auto Club Speedway, where he finished 28th, he has yet to finish a race outside of the top 15. The times that he decides to run in 4-wide seems to be pretty good for him. He's wiggling that Ford Mustang all over the place, though. Bit out of control. Dahari and Porter will pick him up comfortably, though, on the exit of turn 2. And Jurgensmeyer's best career finish was bettered at Dover Motor Speedway. He had 6 at Circuit of the Americas. That was the high for Jurgensmeyer then, after being last off of turn 1 on the opening lap, and then captured a top 5 after starting 15th at the Monster Mile. So Jurgensmeyer has been able to show out, even though his career is a little short here in 4-wide competition. Probably going to be excited to see him take on season number 8 if he decides to go full-time. He has no real problem leading this field now. Justin Rout is the only driver to play some sort of offense on the guys on the inside lane, but so far things haven't worked well, and Rout actually has no rear clip Keelan Belsha. So I don't know what happened to Route. We know they got the front end damage earlier in this race. Now no rear bumper as he gets sucker holed through the middle.
He's going to slip back. Might have got some damage. I've seen it on Twitter a few times with these next-gen cars. If you hit them in the back bumper too hard, it can lose that clip, which isn't really how they do in real life, but it is how they do on iRacing, and a lot of people have not been fans of that. So that could have been what happened, or it could have just been a damage from an earlier incident. But he is slipping back as we speak as this battle. Oh, it's been great. Newbraw up in the 6th position has really changed everything up as they run, and it's put him in a really safe position. He has a good run going right now, so we get a replay here with Reedy on the top side of the racetrack to see what happened right there. It was before Route lost his bumper. Jorgensmeyer continues to lead. Newbraw up there in the 6th position has put him above Brandon Banks in points right now. So Brandon Banks off the track in 33rd. As it stands, he is not safe. If both Reedy and Newbraw put together a good run here, that could knock the number 5 car out of the playoffs, Kenneth.
And Banks had been on the cusp of being eliminated for many weeks on end at the tail end of the regular season. Leading up to this point, it was only until Dover that he got a really good finish in 8th place. It helped him surge up, and then another top 10 run got him some more benefit to lead among those group of guys. But now he seems to be the man on the edge as Newbraw finds himself in the top 10 for the first time all night long. Rolled off 28th on the starting grid tonight from Daytona, and Newbraw has kept his foot in it despite the adversity. Right now, though, he's looking in his rearview mirror and he's watching a former Daytona winner, Adam Alashire, winner from Season 6. First time we were here at the World Center of Racing back then. Will take over the top spot on the outside lane. Moreno to help. Haley and Green, the other 3 cars, to give him some sort of assistance. And even with a 4-car group, a quartet off of these corners, Keelan, you can get a really good run. But like we've seen before, the outside gets some more patronage after a little while, and things get really chaotic. And Alashire in the outside wall.
He's lost it out from under him a little bit right there with that push from Moreno, and that's going to cause him to maybe lose the draft if he can't get back up to speed. And that's going to be tedious. But these up front, these 3 BBR cars have really set sail as far as it stands right now. Jorgensmeyer in the lead, Zahari in 2nd, Porter in 3rd, and Brandon Hawken looking for 4 in a row. He's got help with Kevin D'Elia tucked in behind him. So the tale of friendship up here at the front. We didn't really see this in the early stages of the race, but as it pursues now, that's how we stand. A little bit of teammate working outage right now.
Here's your Charlie Byer Photography onboard camera with Gabriel Zahari sitting in 2nd. I was just thinking that Jorgensmeyer can stay connected to the session, but this will be a nightmare if Jorgensmeyer continues with these connection problems. Not sure if he will get a flag from the iRacing server based on his level of connectivity, but remains up front. Now Ethan Fonseca Moreno is the head honcho of the group up high. No More is the man leading that group in front. And all of a sudden, Moreno will have a chance to let Haley and Green and CJ Munier launch him to the front pack. And Dahari Jorgensmeyer just surged out in front of everyone else. 3rd on back, has to fight for the position. Porter watches the fellow CBP Chevrolet make a move on the high side. And the question is, Charlie, does anyone jump up with Moreno?
I think it's definitely a strategy that would be more prevalent towards the end of this race to have a teammate on the top and bottom row to cover both lines. But as it stands right now, I think Jonathan Jorgai is going to slip in line. So those 4 BB cars are going to stick to the bottom, and they're going to keep working together there. I believe Jaden Porter left open a hole. There's a lot of communication there to get that going. But here comes the number 4 on the outside.
And it leaves Austin Riddy with a choice to make about going up high or finding some space down low. And you know, despite only being 4 cars, they've been able to keep organization good despite losing 2. And even though Moreno made his move down low to join some of his teammates on the inside, it does not prohibit Trevor Haley from taking the lead. Caution flag is out once more, and it appears Adam Alashire found some sort of slowage on the back straightaway. That's turn 4, actually. Coming to the tri-oval, yellow flag flies with a little under 30 laps to go. And we'll take a look at how this all transpired. The Hardee's Toyota went from 0 to 0 as he was running up front, leading the outside charge. Got tapped into the outside wall, and it's Timothy Cook The man who hooks him into the corner, gets him spinning. Cook goes up the wall, and thankfully catches no one else. Alashire saves it for the most part. Yeah, Killen, that's a tough look for the Ohio native who had been doing so well and just working to get back to the front. And all of a sudden, it's just mere contact from the front bumper of Cook's Toyota Camry to send him around. Curved rear bumpers, lots of momentum. The push from Eric Schaefer doesn't help. There goes Alashire for the spin, and he stays connected to that transition between the banking and the apron. He spins alongside. The car nearly gets beached, but he stays down there in enough time for everyone to evade him at the very top end of the 31 degrees of banking. And once more, we will find ourselves under the iRacing official pace car with Trevor Haley as the race commander. How about that, guys? Haley making the move theoretically at the right time. You don't predict when the cautions are going to come out, but if they do fall in your favor, you know, it definitely works out for Haley, who is in that situation to evade trouble in the playoff cut line area. And Haley's had a phenomenal race tonight.
Yeah, he'll more than likely take home the most laps led bonus points, which is 2 bonus points. And he didn't really come in too much trouble. He was 44 to the good, but if he can end this regular season on a high note with a race win, that would be massive for Haley. AJ Green, another guy behind him who needed a good run, sitting in the second position as it stands right now. And that's guys who have had some speed. We'll take a look at those points before we get back going on a restart as they come in for pit stops and service here for possibly the final time tonight.
And I just want to say, in the 4Ride Discord general chat, first message today on race day was Keelan Belsha saying, "Today I predict a Trevor Haley victory." So, Keelan, what are your thoughts on your prediction right now?
I did. Well, it took me back to September when I made this prediction. I was just trying to recall how that race went, and I felt like we saw a lot of Trevor Haley and a lot of Nicholas Bauman up front, and that is how this race started. I mean, we were like 20 laps in, and those two were top two. It's been kind of shaky for both of the guys, both of them involved in some cautions as this race has progressed. But I mean, he's proved me right now. I mean, I was feeling Trevor Haley today, and if he can finish this thing on top, I don't know. I may have to get back to predicting every week because I don't think I hit on one until maybe today. Who knows?
And you know what Charlie Byers said on our Dropping the Hammer pre-race show? A new winner is on the horizon. Who's a driver that hasn't won a race? Trevor Haley. So it's not only Keelan that's having the crystal ball in his hands. Charlie may have something to say about that too, predictive-wise, because both of you guys kind of hit it on the head of what drivers to watch out for, what teams to watch out for.
I will say that if I was on the pit road box today, my winner prediction was going to be Kyle Benson. So to kind of go along with the trends, Keelan picked Trevor Haley as a new winner. I would have picked Kyle Benson. So that's kind of the route that we're going, especially here at Daytona. It's easy to, it's actually a pretty safe assumption to say something like that.
It is definitely true. And when you look at Haley's resume, he started off the season quite well for being a rookie driver in 4-wide competition. And, you know, whenever you're a rookie, you're sort of already trying to play catch-up to the likes of, you know, Gabriel Dahari, Brandon Hawken. You think about what Colin Forrester did in his first 4-wide season in Season 3. AJ Green, who won the series title in his first campaign with the rookie stripes. But Haley stood up to the challenge. He made the playoffs that season, and in this campaign has found some spotlights, even despite some of the overall Dark Horse Motorsports troubles. Had a top 10 after starting 5th at Texas Motor Speedway. And as we look at some of his best finishes throughout the year, he had 4th at Pocono in the chaotic ending to that one. And tonight may be the possibility for the Indiana native to capture his first career win. And what a moment that would be for the Dark Horse Motorsports camp. And after Nicholas Bauman took away the All-Star win, even though it didn't count for an official lock into the 4-wide playoffs, it helped Bauman out tremendously. And his thoughts echoed the rest of Dark Horse Motorsports. They were so happy to see a driver of theirs take the top level of the podium after what they've been through this season, number one, but the level of competition they have to face week in and week out, number 2. So Haley will have control of the restart. AJ Green will follow him on the outside lane. A pair of BBR cars occupy row 2. Gabriel Dahari and Jonathan Juergensmeyer follow suit. Austin Reedy steps back into the top 5 with Kevin DeLeo. We've been watching that head-to-head battle between Reedy and Newbraw And car number 6 of Newbraw has fallen back a bit to 18th place after the most recent pit stop. Here is the updated live points. Now Reedy has the edge. And Keelan, I don't think we're going to have a deciding 15th place driver until this is over, because they've been at least within 10 points the entire night.
And they've been swapping back and forth, too. I mean, Reedy's been above him, Newbraw's been above him. But I just want to bring the attention to Brandon Banks is not safe. I mean, if Newbraw and Reedy both finish respectively in the top 10, that could knock Brandon Banks out of this thing. And even if we get a new winner, that moves the cut line to where Banks and Reedy are right now. So we're not going to know the end of this thing until this race is over. But these guys have been all over each other, and it's now a 3-horse race for that final position. And if Newbraw can get up there, he was up there running pretty well and had a pretty big margin on Reedy before Reedy closed the gap. But Reedy has the edge right now. 7 points is all that separates him.
The last thing that Banks needed tonight was a rough outing, and as his car got destroyed earlier on this evening, he needs a miracle to stay in the 4-wide racing playoff territory. Green flag raises at lap number 96. Trevor Haley gets the overall jump on AJ Green, but the push comes first on the outside lane. Jurgensmeyer wasting no time to get to the rear end of the Beefs Chevrolet, and Kevin D'Elia, Brandon Hawken will help out as affiliate teammates for Stonks Motorsports. They'll make it a quartet brigade on the outside of the racetrack. Haley leads them back down the super stretch.
It's officially go time for these guys. We're just cresting 25 laps left to go in this race. These guys are going to be punching the throttle. There's no more waiting back in the field all the way in the back. You have to get up to the front, and you're going to have to put yourself in a position to where you can win this race. If a string of yellows comes along and you're not able to press that much longer, people like Lawson Peel are up here now. That number 34 of Austin Reedy. These guys are now going to start to really go for this win.
And what a comeback for the Season 4 champion of Lawson Peel. Went spinning down the super stretch earlier on tonight and found himself head on into the inside wall. Didn't pick up that much damage, but he is the 3rd car in a heavily charged pack of racing machines. Austin Reedy has the momentum at the front end, and there are only 2 cars there at the front of the field, but Reedy will get left behind. His teammate at Benson will pick him up entering turn 3, but it is Jaden Porter with help from Peel trying to surge to the top 2.
2 heavyweights this year have been Porter and Peel, 2 guys who have raced each other very, very hard. When I talked to Peel earlier this week, he had nothing but nice words for Jaden Porter and how hard they have raced each other. Peel said, these guys push me to race harder, and he shows that week in and week out. He's not going to help Porter out here. Porter's going to hang on that outside and hope to get some help from Jurgensmeyer, but it's not going to come quick enough. Haley's going to protect his lead for now as Porter slips back to the 6th position.
Porter's got to be careful, though. That's a big gap to Jurgensmeyer, who may have to lay off the throttle for several seconds just to make sure he doesn't pile drive the back end of that Charlie Byer Photography Chevrolet. They keep it clean. We remain green flag racing as we enter the final 20. Look at the run from Porter entering turn 3. Does he swing up high with the momentum? Yes, he does. Here comes Jurgensmeyer. Here comes D'Elia. Hawken to make it 4 cars again on the outside lane back to the stripe.
Porter trying to break back into the top 5. Lawson Peel took him as far as he needed him. Porter made a move to the outside of Gabriel Dahari just a lap ago, and Lawson said, nope, you're done. I'm going to stick to the bottom line and try to keep this track position. So Jaden Porter's going to have to find friends, which he has in that number 70. He's going to try to make another run on the outside.
And we've seen before, when that top side gets the momentum on their side, the top 3 make that crucial decision of whether they want to send a block. And it's worked sometimes. It hasn't worked out in other occasions. Peel is not extending the reach out up to the top. Porter will take over 3rd. Now he will look for 2nd on his teammate Dahari, that yellow and black Chevrolet at the inside of the racetrack. Trevor Haley in command, but the question is, for how long? Here comes the Kentucky native, Jaden Porter, new race leader with 20 to go.
28, moving up front, our regular season champion. He's trying to end this regular season on a high note and show that he is one of these guys that will be competing for a championship alongside Brandon Hawken and stop that streak that he is on. He's got help from his teammate right back there, Kevin D'Elia, in the 53, a guy who is in a must-win position if he wants to make the 4-wide playoffs and shake everything up. He came into today 28th in points. If that 53 car finds a way to win, that changes everything. But as it stands right now, those BBR cars getting out to a 1-2 lead, and there goes Porter sideways. Can he save it? D'Elia sideways. They're going to save it and keep it under him, as that's going to put Kevin D'Elia in the race lead.
What a save by Kevin D'Elia, and Jaden Porter nearly created the big one inside 20 to go. And the not sunks but still kind of sunk Chevrolets, along with Porter, make it work, and somehow Porter is still second. D'Elia the race leader.
That was an excellent display of a lot of touch on these wheels that these drivers have. There were 2 drivers that were almost completely sideways coming out of turns number 4, and they were able to make it, and now those 2 drivers are occupying the top 2 spots. That is a big time save for these drivers, and saved a lot of carnage. These guys are still at it.
Have you ever seen that before at 195 miles an hour in the middle of a pack of hungry drivers? I don't know if I've ever seen that, Keelan Belsha, especially late in this race. Everyone keeps it collected, and for the most part, we stay green. 19 to go. This time by, and the former leader of Trevor Haley now has to hit the reset button. Thankfully, he has some help. And here comes Porter following the momentum up high. He wants the lead from D'Elia. D'Elia will get the push from the Season 2 champion of Scott Healy, with Jurgensmeyer in tow behind. Porter, the race leader, off turn 2 now, and Haley watches on.
We'll see if Haley can make a move. These are 3 guys who have no relation at all up here for the race lead, battling it out right now. We can see friendship pay off and get you up front, but it won't keep you up there, as we see these top 3 all under a blanket right now, like they do at Daytona. And 3 guys hungry for a race win. Jaden Porter, the regular season champion, leading. Trevor Haley, the dominant car of the day, in second. And Brandon Hawken looking for a historic 4-peat. Sits right behind them.
It's a small sample size of super speedway events this season. Got to look back at the opener at Daytona and then that one-off at Talladega. And for Porter, it didn't go well when we started the campaign, finishing inside the top 25. But then got a top 10 when we were at Talladega Superspeedway in the race at Lance Hill. He got to his first victory in a pretty long while in 4-wide history. Now Porter looking for what would be his 3rd consecutive top 10 finish and 3rd race win of the 7th season. He's won a championship with these next-gen cars before. He hasn't found much success at these larger tracks. Now he has control. 17 laps to go at the stripe. And Charlie, what has happened to the inside? D'Elia and Healy, not enough momentum.
Well, the strength of numbers is on the outside right now. There's just more cars. They're going to have more power through these corners and down the straightaways. We see a move to the inside by Trevor Haley. Brandon Hawken files suit. And now the number 28 is going to file back to the number 35. That's number 35 of Tristan Bailey, with a car that's Rivers Jones right behind him. So 2 new drivers to the race lead. Your friends are where you find them out here right now.
And Porter's looking for his friends at the moment. None of them BBR cars inside this top 5. The next BBR car you got to look in line is that 70 of Jurgensmeyer, but I'm sure Porter isn't complaining that he's got a big run from Tristan Bailey, but Bailey wants the lead. He'll try to pick up Haley there off turn 4. Rivers Jones, in his 2nd career 4-wide race, now wants his first win in 4-wide competition, and that leaves Austin Reedy and Michael Newbraw right where they sit in the point standings as well. Face to face in turn 1.
And this is just insane. And if you're Brandon Banks, you hate to see this right now. The 2 guys racing you at the cut line, currently in a great position. If the race were to end right now, Banks would more than likely be out as they start to stack up big time. Scott Healy below the double yellow line back there, as Porter and Tristan Bailey challenging each other for the race lead. Remember, Bailey, he got the pole lap, but he had to serve an EOL, so he never got to spend time up at the front of this field. Now with 15 to go, the perfect time to be out front is now late in this going, but Trevor Haley is going to try to take that away from him.
Bailey's going to watch that Carton Arcs Ford Mustang take it to the stripe to lead with 15 laps to go. Porter, Jones, and Reedy, the top 4 on the very top. Bailey, Hawken, D'Elia, and Healy, the lone survivors on the bottom. And as Jaden Porter try to swing to the inside, we haven't seen much of 3-wide action tonight, especially in the front end of this pack under green. And more often than not, when they go 3 abreast, 1 car is sideways, and the yellow flag follows suit in the prompt. But here comes Bailey, watches the run from Haley behind, makes the block. Hawken to the inside. He wants a top spot, but he may not get the run out of turn 4 that he desires. Porter waits in the ranks from 3rd on the outside, and Bailey remains in the lead. 14 to go at the line.
We haven't seen a lot of Brandon Hawken out front leading laps, but he has been an unbelievable pusher. He gave that shove to Tristan Bailey. He was able to give him the clearance to the outside line, and now he's in control of this race. But Brandon Hawken's going to be one of those guys you want to be behind you when it comes down to the end of this race because he is a strong pusher. We got 2 drivers now on the bottom. That's Austin Reedy and Scott Healy leading the bottom lane now.
A gasp Keelan Belcher from Austin Reedy because he can see that PS4 Chevrolet on the outside lane of Michael Newbraw, and he's thinking to himself, I cannot let you beat me to the stripe when this is all said and done. That's for the 15th and final playoff spot. We know Brandon Banks is kind of the sitting duck here, the elephant in the room that can get bounced out of the playoffs when this race finishes up. But Reedy wants to assure that he will be one of the 15 with no doubts and no question marks. He'll pick up Trevor Haley to the inside lane, and the Ford Mustangs prance up front, locked nose to nose, 13 laps to go.
Well, Kenneth, you know the easiest way to leave any doubt and leave it up to points is to go out there and win this race, and that is what Austin Reedy is going to try to do. He didn't quite have the best run back in September. He qualified up front, got involved in an early yellow, and kind of took him out of contention till the end of the thing. But if he can find a way to win this race, that would be the easiest way to put himself in the playoffs, as you see his nearest competitor right to his outside. And this is going to be a tight one all the way to the checkered flag.
And Reedy is looking to kill a winless drought that extends over a year long. The last time we saw that 34 car, or at least Reedy's name in victory lane, was at the old Atlanta Motor Speedway in the midst of season 5, race number 10. So it's been quite a while since we've seen Reedy take the top spot. And then come the memories of late last season here at Daytona, where he had the lead in the winning laps, but saw his teammate Kyle Benson get right by him in those final several hundred feet to take the win. Look at Haley going up high for the block, and Bailey saying, yeah, I'm not going to work with that. He goes right to the inside, looking for third now, and Porter controls the lead. Pack coming to 11 laps remaining.
So much trying to keep control of this race. When you fall at least 2 rows back, you don't have a lot of options now. A little bit of bumping to that number 28 puts him in the outside line and gives room for Tristan Bailey, forces him and his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate to make room coming up on the bottom. But these drivers are trying really, really hard not to lose control of this race. If you fall more than 2 rows back, you don't have a lot of options when these guys are stacked up 2 by 2 like this. So people like Jaden Porter, that number 4 of Tristan Haley, that number 35 of Tristan Bailey, that 4 of Trevor Haley, they're trying so hard not to fall back and maintain this race lead because it's going to count when it comes down to it.
And usually the guy who's at the front of the field on the white flag lap is usually never the race winner. Only in specific circumstances do you find the guy who leads the group off of the final corner to be the man first at the checkered flag. It worked out for Steven Stempian in the overtime restart last time we were here to kick off the campaign, but it may be very well different here tonight. 10 laps to go, and Murray Reedy Motorsports has control of the front row. Kyle Benson now watching on from the sidelines. He had his power go out, so our well wishes to Kyle. Hopefully he stays safe up in Pennsylvania due to the severe storms that are hitting the east coast of the United States right now. But he's cheering on his teammate, wishing for him to end up with a playoff spot. And Austin Reedy takes Brandon Hawken and Eric Schaefer to the top 3, and now he'll get smudged out of the way. Hawken wants the lead down the super stretch.
Hawken trying to make history here, Kenneth. This would be 4 in a row for the first time ever. Big stack up on the top as Bailey got into the back of Reedy. But now what will Schaefer do? Will Schaefer sit behind Hawken, or will he have an opportunity to make a move? Reedy's going to get that run to the outside. Murray Reedy Motorsports to the outside. Hawken blocks. Contact there. Reedy in the fence. Hawken's going to maintain the lead for now. Reedy going to try to get a challenge back on the outside, but that was a great block by Hawken.
Push Tyler Murray, or rather Austin Reedy, right to the outside wall, and it nearly got Haley woed up. He had to slow down the car just to avoid making it middle 3 in the middle of the corner. And all of a sudden, Reedy will have to hit the reset button and try again. This time it's Brandon Hawken, the race leader, and Eric Schaefer was a lap down in the first 20 laps of this race. Had been all the way at the back and let the entire field by him a couple of times. He got the lucky dog when it mattered most. And the Virginia native is searching for his first win of this 2025 season, but he may have to wait a little longer. 8 laps to go. Reedy, now the race leader, to the line.
what a recovery drive this has been for that number 3 of Eric Schaefer, as well as that number 97 of Cody Kinsey. That's Craig Parks in the number 17 sitting in the bottom line as well. So these guys are able to put together a recovery race to put themselves in position to try to win this one. But as of right now, it's being controlled by the Toonbury Reedy Motorsports cars. And here comes AJ Green, second on the top.
We haven't seen AJ Green much in this race, especially at the end. Just got mired back with the likes of Ethan Fonseca Moreno and Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, but here's a second breath of life for the trio as they help Trevor Haley to the front. It's Reedy versus Haley. The Ford Mustangs have been up front for seemingly this entire run. It will be 7 laps to go, this time at the stripe, and you gotta ask yourself, who is hungrier at this junction? Is it Haley, a man who hasn't won a career 4-wide race, or Austin Reedy, who desperately needs this type of performance to make the playoffs?
It's hard to tell, and I think anybody up in this front pack, they're hungry for it. As we take a look at the live points, Trevor Haley, he's good as it stands right now, but Austin Reedy, he has Newbraw right behind him. He has no room to breathe right now. 7 points to the good as it stands, but if he gets out to that race lead, that moves him all the way to the top, and that would put him in the playoffs with a race win. That would do the same for any of these top 3 drivers right now of Haley, Reedy, or Green.
So it is still locked, dead even for the top spot. And Reedy, despite his pushes from Tristan Bailey rather, off of turn 2, it isn't enough to fully beat Haley off the corner. And now AJ Green wants to command that inside charge. The Chevrolet will duck back down. And the Stonk Motorsports number 48 will try and take a lap lead to his credit. Trevor Haley will fight back. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, the beautiful push off turn 2, but there's a gap back to Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So, Charlie, there may be some trouble there, a bit of dissipation from the very top lane, but it doesn't matter, and it will not affect your front-running 3.
That dissipation is going to spring back together as all these guys are. It only takes only a straightaway if there's dissipation for these guys to catch back up. But a driver who has been a victim of that is Lawson Peel and Brandon Hawken, 2 drivers who were instrumental in getting some of these names to the front of the field, are now at the back of the pack. And coming to 6 laps to go, they have a bit of work to do if they want to put themselves back in position to win. But that never.
Oh, go ahead, Charlie. And now look who's in the middle. It's Eric Schaefer, and he's going to get turned right to the outside wall with Cody Kinsey in tow. Will that bring out the yellow? Yes, it does. And Lawson Peel is involved.
That is a huge gaggle of Drinking Bros racing cars involved in that one. Oh, and this is gonna change strategy a little bit, Kenneth. I mean, if these overtimes pile on, you gotta wonder if these guys are good on fuel, because they have been going all out. And with this caution, I mean, they pit right at the fuel window. They're going to have this caution to save, but if these overtimes stack up, it could cause an issue as we look to see what happened to cause this yellow. Schaefer got in the middle of a checkup, and his teammate Kinsey gets right into the back of him in a big stack up right there. Peel gets taken out in the mess. That is going to bring out another yellow here late.
And for the first time, we saw a peak at 3 wide. Eric Schaefer went through the middle. And they stacked up where River Jones was. Nowhere for Schaefer to go. He floats up high. Kinsey gets into him, and Kinsey gets a hit right back to the outside wall. A nasty touch to the 97 car. Lawson Peel getting in trouble for the 2nd time tonight. And once more, we are under the yellow flag. And this time it's within 5 laps to go. What did I tell you guys? The last couple of times we have been in this situation at Daytona, we have gone overtime racing, and it appears we will be in that very same spot when we take our next restart.
Certainly will. I mean, this is... It always seems to come this way, Kenneth. We always get a look at great racing, get the yellow, stacks them all up, and then it is a wild race to the checkered, a wild dash, and that could be what's taking shape right now.
Trevor Haley, the race leader, AJ Green, and Austin Reedy is going to be your top 3. All of them have been super strong in tonight's race. And you'd imagine now, with 4 laps to go coming to 3, Charlie, no one's going to come down pit road unless they really need it. Because this isn't a track decided by tire wear. This is a track decided by where you are when you cross the start-finish line. So I don't think anyone's going to be that willing to give up their track position to come down pit road. I mean, there are a considerable number of drivers that are in right now. Tyler Murray, Curtis Kelly, Justin Rout, Lance Hill among them, but A ton of them were at the back of this field prior to the throwing of the yellow flag. There's Adam Alashire getting around the iRacing official pace car to get this wave. But I'd say you might be pretty nervous if you are Trevor Haley. First career win on the line, and you're going to be the leader of the next restart.
Yeah, the pressure is absolutely building up to a reaching point, or to a boiling point. And at this point, when you come down to a restart this close with this few laps, your friends are truly where you find them. There's not going to be a whole lot of coordinated teamwork unless you're starting right behind somebody, or unless you just end up right behind them on the racetrack. I think all bets are off, and these guys are certainly looking for a race win, potentially their only of the season for a lot of these drivers. That's what's so great about Daytona. So this race has certainly has been led into with a lot of stakes, and it's going to give us a good finish here shortly.
And
how about Francisco Bacalhau as well, breaking back into the top 15?
Yeah, great stuff from our in-race reporter. Haven't seen him much throughout this race. The Boeing Toyota Camry, 15th. And he could have gained a lot more. I mean, things change so quickly here at Daytona. And you look at the live points on the right side of your screen. It's not anymore a fight head-to-head between Reedy and Newbraw to get in. They're both in right now. It's Brandon Banks, the man first on, looking out.
And just 2 points separate all three of those drivers, which is just crazy to me, Kenneth. So if Reedy drops maybe 2 positions, he's out, Banks is in, Newbraw's in. This is going to be decided in these final 2 laps. It's really going to be decided in maybe the last 100 yards coming to the checkered flag. That's how quickly things can change. But as it stands right now, Brandon Banks, the odd man out, he's going to be sitting here praying for a little magic. And Austin Reedy, as it stands right now, he does have the fastest lap of the race, so that would move him 2 points ahead of Newbraw, and that would be another bonus point to his credit. That would put him at 562 instead of 561.
That's Tyler Murray, league owner, giving us that update that Reedy does have the fastest lap, so that will help him achieve the goal of making the top 15. It's been more so about surviving than it has been about dominating. But you like the situation if you're car number 34 inside row 2 with a chance to win this deal. You've got a teammate in the top 5 with Tristan Bailey to support you. And just like they've been nose to tail for most of that last run, despite all of the switching of positions and new race leaders, lap in and lap out, those two have been attached by the hip. And we'll get a restart inside 3 laps to go. That does mean we extend this race past our scheduled distance, and we enter our first attempt at 4 wide overtime. Here is how it will work. We will run this restart as normal with 2 laps to go, and the goal, try to make it to the white flag under green and finish the race. If a caution does not come out and the leaders take the white flag, we will finish this race no matter what, no matter the circumstance. However, if a yellow does fly before the leader catches the white flag lap, then we will reset and do it all over again. If we do manage to use all of our attempts, which are 3 that we have available tonight, that means that at the throwing of the last caution flag before the leader gets the white, whoever is the race leader will be the winner. AJ Green has been in this situation before. Got him 5/1000ths of a second short to his teammate Colin Forrester about 2 seasons ago. Austin Reedy hasn't won a race in over 2 seasons. And Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who was one of the best drivers in the series champion back in Season 6, has yet to find a super speedway win to his credit. And Trevor Haley, the man who will be in the catbird seat when we get going in just a couple of moments, he's searching for his first all-time. Guys, what do we expect? Keelan, I'll start with you.
Oh my goodness, we've seen everything today. I mean, this last action of racing, this last gaggle that we kind of had, those last 20 laps was just crazy. We saw like a deck of cards being shuffled, and it's crazy stuff. And that is what we have seen on the racetrack this evening. I think we see much of the same, Kenneth. But if you're a cut line driver, if you're an Austin Reedy and Michael Newbraw, you are doing everything in your power to keep your car alive, because you're in a great spot right now. Finish where you're running. Don't try to push too hard for something that's not there. Don't push for a hole that's not there, and that'll be the strategy for them. But this race for the win is going to be wild.
Charlie, what do you think? This one's going to get wild.
This is going to get wild, and it's going to bring in a stressor for fuel. Just talking to the KBueno Racing drivers, these guys are potentially not going to be able to get to the end of this race if we extend to all 3 overtime attempts. So these guys are praying that this race gets done as soon as possible. So, or else it could bring a lot of potential fuel issues for these guys. But in terms of my expectations, well, we've seen an excellent display of racing and control out of these guys throughout the last 25 laps. So I certainly expect no different. Even on that last yellow flag, not a whole lot of cars involved. A lot of great cars, a lot of great drivers intact. They're going to make this race great for us.
So now it makes it 4 races in a row here at Daytona, to which we've seen at least 1 overtime restart. And Daytona has produced 3 of the top 10 closest finishes in 4-wide history. And Daytona holds the throne for the closest finish ever in the series, like we mentioned before. AJ Green wanting to be on the opposite end of that, but he has to react to the man down low leading the group. Trevor Haley, the Indiana native, is at front. He will lead this back to green with 2 laps remaining here at Daytona. Do we get another overtime restart, or do we run this one to the finish? Green flag restart, 2 laps to go and 5 miles.
Haley's going to get a good jump, going to move up in front of Green here on the outside. Green got a good jump to his outside. We'll see if he makes a move into 1. Looks like he's going to stay behind him for now. Ethan Fonseca Moreno in behind him. Big stack up top. And here comes Jahari and Reedy on the bottom as Scott Healy drops to the bottom as well. Reedy is going to get pushed out front to the race lead down the back.
And there is no mercy at this point to push. Reedy, the control car. Dahari and Porter right behind. And now AJ Green will spin. He'll catch Trevor Haley and the others. And a big one down to turn 3. And we will get another overtime restart. It is a heartbreaker for Trevor Haley.
And for a driver that was up front for so long in this race, making the right moves to put himself in a great spot to get himself a race win today, unfortunately is beached in turns 3 and 4. That's unfortunate for that number 4.
And our trouble spot tonight, the Daytona Super Stretch. And that's where it catches AJ Green and Trevor Haley. Take a look at the outside pack of cars. Haley is swerving from the big pushes by Green, and then Green gets shuffled out of line by the big push from Moreno. And gets right into Haley's quarter panel, sends him for the spin. Daniel Moore gets a touch on the outside, just trying to get away from it. We'll see if we can get a better look here from how Haley and Green got in trouble.
Haley moved down there like he was trying to side draft that Porter car back there, and the outside lane just didn't follow him. Like, Green kind of half followed him, but Moreno back there and the guys behind Moreno, they just didn't move to the bottom to kind of side draft like Haley was doing. And that's what kind of started Haley's downfall, because they had to run coming from behind. And, I mean, that just starts a bit of a checkup, bit of an optical illusion of the guys in front of you, and it causes Haley to be in a mess, and that hands the lead over to a guy who could use this win in Austin Reedy.
And that means we'll go to overtime. Attempt number 2. Things are getting real stressful, and Reedy now in the catbird seat when we go green next time through. We'll try and get a word with our in-race reporter, Francisco Bacalao. Francisco, you got a copy with us?
I gotcha.
All right, well, you're in the top 16, top 15 now that a couple cars in front of you will hit pit road. You know, Daytona's going to be crazy when it's crazy. How do you try and process these final 2 in overtime?
Well, ever since the initial crash, I was in the lead draft for the first time on that overtime restart, so I have been with the back foot the whole time this race, and with that being said, that means I have nothing to lose, so I will try to do everything I can to get as good of a result as I can.
Some of your teammates there to help. I know Mikey Neal's right behind you, and BBR has a chance to win with the likes of Jaden Porter and Gabriel Dahari. What kind of conversations are you guys having in that voice chat as we get down to this second OT?
Mostly fuel. We're trying to save a lot of fuel. It's really tight for if we get another attempt in this.
Do you guys believe you guys will make it if there is a third?
We'll have to wait and see.
It's going to be close, though. Francisco, thank you for the insight. Thank you for the time, and best of luck when we get 2 laps to go next time through.
I'll do my best to make sure this car stays grounded. This is not an instance where I want to take off.
I don't want to be like a Ryan Preece, for sure, but Bacalao going to be in the top 15 as we get the restart. Dahari and Porter have been strong as of late, and they could get BBR their second win on a super speedway this season. Stempian was a part of the KBueno Racing Junior Camp, and although he hasn't made many starts in Season 7, he still is credited with a BBR win at Daytona. And then Talladega went the way of Lance Hill near the white flag lap when Hill made the move to the inside of the tri-oval and got past at the start-finish line. Man, this is going to be wild. And Charlie, that conversation of fuel is going to be the biggest heaver in all of this, because if we continue to go green, or if we continue to get yellows rather, we're going to be in that situation where everyone's saving and drivers will be forced to hit pit road. It's going to be a very uncomfortable part of the race for, it seems like, everyone, especially if it's Austin Reedy.
Excuse me, Kenneth, I missed your, we're hard at work updating points here, but for Austin Reedy, he's in a great spot right now, and he's also a teammate not too far back in Tristan Bailey, so it's going to be our second attempt at this overtime restart, and like I said, your friends are where you find them, but there's one nearby.
And the tough part for Reedy is that he's got to deal with Scott Healy behind him. Not exactly a problem. They are not teammates, though. And Jaden Porter-Dahari are teammates on the inside lane. Tristan Bailey has been away from the action, specifically from Reedy's rear bumper over the last couple of restarts. And Bailey will line up 5th on the inside of road number 3. So that is possibly a rough move there. BBR could work together on the inside lane. And that will bring a challenge for Scott Healy. And he wants to win as well. He's got to push the 34 with all that he's got in these waning laps. Still a ton of cars left in this race. Want to run you through the DNF list as we get down to it. Brian Dixon is out of tonight's coverage. So is Brandon Banks, as he got shoved out of the top 15 in points. Kyle Benson had his power go out, so he will not run the rest of this one. Neither will Chris Fowler, as he got a hard hit to the outside wall off of turn 2 a while ago. Brandon Gillis, Cody Kinsey out of this race to follow. And then Steven Maggio, Juan Escamilla, Rodney Roberts, some of the early exits tonight. And a shout out to Lance Hill as well. He's 104 laps down, but his car is still registered in the session. So he has not put that Chevrolet behind the wall yet. This will be our second attempt at overtime. Remember, we have 3 attempts available to us. If we get another yellow before the white falls, we will have a final and third attempt to bring this race through under green. And from there, the conversation gets heavier and heavier when you think about how much fuel these guys have left and who will be taken out in the proverbial mess. Austin Reedy and Gabriel Dahari will see the green flag for what may be the final time. Second attempt at OT. Pace cars down. Reedy brings us back underway.
And he got slammed from Scott Healy right behind him, and that caused him to kind of get sideways and door bang off of Dahari. We'll see if Dahari has a challenge for him going into turn number 1 here. He's got help from that Charlie Bauer photography machine behind him, as they're going to be 3 wide now for that second position.
Well, Jaden Porter just left Dahari for dust. The 2 teammates not going to work together here off of the second corner, and that leaves Tristan Bailey with the mission to get right behind Porter's Chevrolet. Rivers Jones is going to join Brandon Hawken as the 4th car on the outside, and now here comes Scott Healy looking for the lead off turn 3.
A move to the outside assisted by that number 92, followed by the number 98 of Brandon Hawken as well. That number 26 of Rivers Jones making his oval debut in 4 wide. 4th on the top. These guys are barreling down the front straightaway to the white flag, led by the number 64. Scott Healy takes him there.
1 more left from the World Center of Racing, and now here comes Rivers Jones. Look through the middle lane, and Reedy's sideways. He'll spin to the inside of the racetrack, and it's all a question as to whether he'll save it, and they are big time crashing in turn 1. Healy the leader.
And Michael Newbraw was one of the cars that made it through, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But up front, it's Scott Healy trying to pull away with Ethan Fonseca Moreno behind him. Will he make a move? Will Brandon Hawken help him? Question marks as River Jones moves to the bottom. They're going to be coming off turn 4. Whose race is it?
Here comes Moreno. That is Porter through the middle. Scott Healy will have Moreno right behind him to the stripe and to the flag. They're crashing. Moreno looks to the bottom, but Scott Healy takes the win from Daytona. And for the first time since Kansas this season, Scott Healy spoils the party and takes the win in the winning laps. Moreno takes second. Brandon Hawken continues his podium streak at Super Speedways, 3rd place, and Francisco Bacallao will take 4th. Our in-race reporter stunning in the last laps.
Francisco right out of the cannon on that last restart. Got up to the 4th position as the field kind of fell apart. Everybody congratulating Scott Healy, one of the 4-wide legends, and it may only be fitting that one of the 4-wide legends is going to take it to all setup shop Victory Lane, Kenneth, on the 5-year anniversary of the league. Scott Healy going to park it in Victory Lane again, this time at Daytona.
A phenomenal job by Healy to surge forward, coming to the line, and the pressure from Moreno heavy enough to make Healy flinch, not enough to beat him to the line. Scott Healy takes his 2nd win of the season and will enter Paul's setup shop Victory Lane in new colors and a new manufacturer. Same Scott Healy that we know from back then. And he will burn it down from Daytona International Speedway. A wonderful effort at the end. And we'll try to digest what just happened, guys, over those last 2 laps in the 2nd attempt at overtime. Particularly with Austin Reedy. Might be the biggest heartbreak in those final few laps. We'll try to take another look at it as we dissect what might happen with the live points, who is in and who is out. So here is the restart. Austin Reedy and Gabriel Dahari are the control cars on the front row. And then as they take the green flag, this is where things really get crazy. Dahari makes contact with Reedy, and he's beating him evenly to the line. So it's an even spread going to turn 1. Although there was less effort from the tertiary car of Tristan Bailey. But this is the pack we'll talk about until the very end of this deal. Scott Healy pushes, and then Dahari gets shuffled out through the middle. He will make a recovery later on in the white flag lap, but for then, it seemed a little odd that BBR would go against each other in those waning laps. Rivers Jones moves up high to help Dahari, shuffles right behind Brandon Hawken, and then here is where things get wild. Reedy gets shuffled out of line. He has no help to the inside. He's trying to help Jaden Porter move forward, but Porter will try and get out of line as well, and they will decide their placement as Healy got to the white flag first. They did not crash before the flag came out. And then off of the tri-oval is where the heartbreak ensues for the 34 car. He gets pushed from Jaden Porter. There's Rivers Jones through the middle. And then Reedy gets shuffled out of line and spun to the inside of the racetrack. And from there, Craig Parks gets turned and stacks up everyone else basically from about 15th on back. Catches everyone down to the inside grasp, but the white flag is displayed, so no problems from there on out. Jones and Dahari, the 2-car tandem, trying to work together, and then the last gasp from Moreno and Brandon Hawken. They didn't try to make a move until they got right out of turn 4, way up to the outside of the racetrack. Jaden Porter makes a surge with Bacallao through the middle. Moreno looked like he wanted to join his teammate, but he didn't have enough time. He swings out late, and so does Hawken, but by that time, it's too late. Healy sends the block, and he is to the stripe first. Scott Healy, the race winner for the 2nd time this season in unbelievable fashion. He gets the W, and we'll try to continue to process things through as we get our unofficial results. Let's get a moment to take a moment and see what happened with our unofficial results here from Daytona, where Scott Healy takes the race victory by 1/10 of a second. Moreno follows right behind him. Brandon Hawken continues to finish well, and this season has not finished a race outside of the top 10. Bacallao recovers for a top 4 finish. Rivers Jones in his oval debut takes away P5. Gabriel Dahari back in 6th. Jaden Porter to come home 7th, so that matches his best Super Speedway finish of the year. Michael Newbroad needed this one to go his way. 8th place may just be enough to enter the playoffs this season. CJ Winier arrives in 9th place, and Timothy Cook, Keelan Belcher, rounds out the top 10.
Back in the 11th position, it was Nicholas Bauman, who we saw running up front earlier. He ends up finishing strong in 11th. Tristan Bailey for MRM sits in the 12th position. Justin Rout, he led several laps today, finishes in the 13th position. Adam Alshire, who had a good run before being involved in a couple incidents that damaged his race car, in 14th. Curtis Kelly in the 71 caps off a good regular season in 15th. AJ Green back in the 16th position. Brad Glautensauger, what a recovery drive after getting involved and pretty tore up in a yellow earlier today, finishes in 17th. Daniel Moore, who we saw pull off a miraculous save earlier in the race, in 18th. Tyler Murray, the league owner on today's 5-year anniversary, finishes in 19th. And Lawson Peel rounds out the top 20.
Back in 21st is Austin Reedy, so we just have to feel out where he's going to be in the cut line fight after getting spun on those final laps. Mikey Neal in 22nd, Eric Schaefer 23rd, and then that starts the list of cars one lap down or more. Craig Parks 24th, 25th to Kevin D'Elia, then Dusty Applin, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer. Dominant driver of the night, Trevor Haley 28th, and a heartbreaker for him, Cody Kinsey 29th. Brandon Gillis rounds out the top 30. Here's the rest of the group as it stands. Kyle Benson had his power come out. 31st for him. Chris Fowler 32nd. Then Brandon Banks, who had to watch from the sidelines this playoff cut line fight. Christopher Bishop 34th. 35th to Brian Dixon. Lance Hill 36th. Then Stephen Maggio, Juan Escamilla, and Rodney Roberts bring us the end of the 39 car field from Daytona International Speedway. And we have our official live points ready for you, and this is the margin of difference. Michael Newbraw will be the first driver in, or the last driver in. Austin Reedy is the first man out. Unbelievable.
And it makes me think back to Pocono, Kenneth. That was the one that could have just been changed and flip-flopped. And when you think about Pocono, that's the one that Austin Reedy is probably going to be thinking about if he could have just switch the result of that race, he'd probably be in today and not have as much stress on him. But today, too, he was right there knocking on the door. He was in a great position to try and win this race, and unfortunate how things fell coming to the white flag. He did a good job spinning it down to the bottom and not taking anybody else out in the process, as that could have been a really messy one and could have messed with this finish of the race. But it's really unfortunate for Reedy and Chris Bishop, his teammate too. He didn't have the run he needed, but hats off to Michael Newbraw. I mean, a guy, he was down around the 30th position for a lot of the opening stages of this race, and he's going to end up putting himself just inside the playoffs, 17 points over Austin Reedy, and that is going to be one of our contenders for the 4x championship when it's all said and done.
It is unbelievable to see how close that fight has been for so long. Weeks on end, we were talking about what this could look like come Daytona, and it came down to an absolute showdown between Newbraw and Reedy. But it's one single spin on the final lap of the race that will take Austin Reedy out of playoff contention this season. But for now, we turn to Paul's Setup Shop Victory Lane, and for the second time this season, it is Scott Healy taking the W. Keelan Belsha mentioned this to us right after you crossed the start-finish line. Kind of poetic that on the 5-year anniversary of 4Wide, an OG driver takes away the win. Scott, how can you describe the race victory this evening?
I don't know what to do with my hands, man. I'm just fine. No, it feels great. I was honestly expecting to die tonight in that, multiple wrecks I was almost involved in. I'm pretty sure turn 3 is basically dirt the amount of times I went into the grass over there. So it was a pretty fun race. I mean, I wish it was a little bit more green flag runs, but I guess people are just a little bit impatient when a race, which I get, but I don't know. I mean, it was a fun race overall.
You look at an overtime restart like that, you have to do it not only once, but you got to do it a second time. And you're in a position outside of row 2 where you're just kind of measuring what's going to go on and where to choose your battles. With the super speedway experience that you have on iRacing, how intuition filled are those moments where you got to make it in a split second, you got to figure out who to go with, and you got to figure out how to put yourself at the front to the start finish line first?
It's all luck at Daytona. So I got lucky to be in P4 at that last restart, being behind Austin Reedy over there. And, he went a little bit low, and I saw a gap, and I said, well, I'm going to take the high side because you can't get past on the high side. You can get past on the low side, but with these cars and with these draft packages, you can't really do anything on the bottom. So it's just a 50-50 chance of whether that person's going to stick behind you or not. And come to the last corner, I expected him to go low and try to pass me, but I already knew what was coming, so I dived it down low. Thankfully blocked him enough where I could just get this win. I mean, it's a great feeling.
In a new car, in a new manufacturer, doesn't matter, you get the win regardless. And as we move on forward, I know you're not going to be part of the 4Wide playoffs this season, but what other tracks do we expect to see you be the spoiler at? Because it shows that no matter where we are on the speedway, or on the circuit, Scott Healy is a force to be reckoned with. When should we expect you next on the series?
I don't know, maybe next week or the week after. I mean, it's start of the work season for me, so you already know how that game goes. I'm either here or not here, but I mean, I hope to be here next week and for the rest of the season, but I can't guarantee anything.
Well, hopefully it is sooner than later that we see you hop on for a four-wide race, because it's electric when you're able to step into victory lane, and the way you did it tonight was unbelievable. Scott, congratulations on the win. Before we let you go, hear from Daytona, anybody in particular that you want to thank for the night?
Thank you guys for being on the broadcast every week. Everybody who makes these races possible. Everyone who's watching, my girlfriend. Unfortunately, I don't have Team Conti anymore, so yeah, I wish them the best of luck. But I got some other things I got to do, and maybe I'll be back on that team later on. But I like to thank them for giving me the chance of being on their team and everything, and just iRacing that and iRacing as well. I mean, yeah, you got them ups and downs with iRacing, but in general, it's a great experience to be on this server. And that's really it. Did I mention my girlfriend? If not, then yeah, my girlfriend. But that's about it, my man.
Well, Scott, we certainly appreciate the time. All love from our side. Enjoy the victory here at Daytona. And from all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations. We'll see you hopefully soon.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good night, guys.
Scott Healy, the Season 2 champ, is in victory lane tonight. Second time he's done so here in this Season 7 campaign. We're going to try to get a word with Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Right now, I don't believe we are able to, but we are caught up. Keelan Belshaw with the third place finisher, and the man who just seemingly cannot finish a race outside of the top 10, Brandon Hawken, in his second Super Speedway race, P3.
Well, Brandon, you were knocking on the door to 4 in a row there. I thought you were about to make history several times. I mean, you weren't the leader of the pack a few times, but you were the guy who was pushing everybody out front, and then just everybody left you in the dark, and we were back in 10th, having to drive your way back up. And I mean, you nearly spoiled the party, got 4 in a row. So take us through your race. You know how Daytona races go, but you were right there at the end.
Yeah, that was a fun race there. But after the halfway mark, the first 70 or so laps, I was ready to go to sleep. Everybody was, we all got strung out, and yeah, once we had that one yellow there, everybody started getting a bit more aggressive because track position was pretty important. I think that the draft's a little bit less strong than it used to be, so yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to make moves. But yeah, I was. Took 2 there on one of the stops and was able to get back out front there, and got really lucky towards the start. Got in that accident and just had about like 50 seconds of damage, but they repaired it all, so that was good. And then yeah, I was working with Kevin a lot there throughout the race, and was hoping we could do yeah, something like how we worked out with at Talladega. We worked really well there, and we ended up getting separated there towards the end, but yeah, it was a good race, and yeah, had lots of help from him. Nicholas Bauman, he saved me from the sucker hole, 3 wide in the middle. So thanks to him for helping with that. But yeah, it was a good race there. The last 60, 50 laps ish, and I'm not usually one to stay in line there at the end of the race, but things got shuffled out, and didn't have enough help from behind, so I stayed glued to Ethan and Scott, and then the run came from behind. So I was like, oh man, we're gonna get trained here going into 3 and 4, but we were able to hold the speed on the outside, and if Ethan made a bit of a move. I wanted to go the inside. He went to the inside, and then I think and then Scott blocked. He did a great job getting to the lead, by the way. But man, yeah, I was just trying to grab second there, but not quite. But you know what? I'll take it. There was lots of close calls in that race, and happy to come home third.
Yeah, I mean, another podium run for you. It must have been really nice to get out here and kind of have a stress-free race, just kind of have a little bit of fun as we come in on the playoffs. You're hunting for that championship starting in 2 weeks at Auto Club, so eyes forward to the playoffs. How you feeling about it?
Yeah, feeling all right. Yeah, Auto Club. I've always loved driving there, and it's going to be a really fun race. The top side seems fairly dominant there, but the track's so wide that you can dive it down low and make some moves. So it's gonna be a really interesting race, and depending on the setup, might like probably the best race I've ever done there was with like an extremely loose setup, and it was an absolute blast. So yeah, we'll see how it goes next week. Yeah, really looking forward to it, and yeah, just gotta keep my head in the game. We had a lot of fun tonight, but it's a more serious time next week, and yeah, should be a fun race. So yeah, looking forward to that, and yeah, I guess the stress-free race is out the window, and now we're back to business.
You know something? I'm always jealous of Kenneth because you're always winning these races, and he's always the one that gets to talk to you. And you're so energetic. I love it. We love to see that up here. And I've been jealous. I haven't been able to talk to you yet. So finally getting that off my bucket list as you get a third place finish. You got anybody you want to thank for putting together a great run tonight?
Well, thanks, Keelan. Yeah, good to talk to you too. And yeah, I'd just like to thank all you guys in the booth who put on the great broadcasts every week. Everybody at Four Wide, happy anniversary to Four Wide. I think 5th year. So that's quite an achievement. So congrats to everybody at Four Wide, and especially like everybody who's been there since the beginning. That's pretty neat. And yeah, just yeah, looking forward to next week. Got to thank Racing Prodigy and Sucker Punch as well. Of course, Prodigy Racing Leagues on MAV TV each Sunday 9 Eastern, and yeah, just got finished with the season. So yeah, we're looking forward to the next season of that, and looking forward to the next race here at Auto Club.
We appreciate you joining us here tonight, Brandon. Can't wait to see you on the 19th, I believe it is, at Auto Club, or the 16th, I'm sorry, at Auto Club for the playoff opener. Maybe you can go ahead and get a win and put yourself in the next round.
Yeah, I'll try my best, and yeah, but it's gonna be super tough. So yeah, looking forward to it, guys.
So, we thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Brandon Hawken takes away third here from the World Center of Racing. And still no Ethan Fonseca Moreno right now, but it gives us a chance to dial up the secondary storyline of the night, and that is who is in and who is out of the Four Wide Racing TJ Steam Series playoffs. And we start with the DBR Chevrolet driver of Michael Newbraw. Michael, with the way this race started, you rolled off 28th. You got to see a bunch of the crashes in front of you. You get into the top 10 late, and on these final two is where things get decided. You will be a part of the Four Wide Racing playoffs this season. How does that sound?
That feels great. It honestly does. I was stressing this whole race, knowing that I had 5 points on Reedy, and I had to stay somewhat either close to him or in front of him.
Well, it was a back and forth race. It seemed like you and Reedy, especially in those final 20, you know, we were looking at the points. He was either tied or a point or two below or above. You guys were swinging all over the place. How did that change your approach, particularly when that overtime restart came out and you had to deal with not only one, but two attempts?
Well, you know me. I like riding around in the back and waiting for her to pick my moments. And today just wasn't that type of day. I had to be up in the pack racing, and it's nerve-wracking. I can say that for sure. I like it better when I can just sit in the back and wait for all the action to unfold. It's nerve-wracking up there in the middle.
So now you've got a playoff spot. And I remember last season you were in that same position, trying to claw your way to the 15th place position, floating around that cut line. With how good it feels to go in now, how do you try and restructure your mindset to be locked in and focused with the week off that we have and when we come back at Auto Club for race number 1?
Oh, it definitely. All the guys have already kind of pushed me. Banks really got on my butt last week about letting out of the throttle and letting a bunch of guys pass me because I was like, oh, well, I wasn't comfortable. He's like, no, you're just fast enough to be up there with everybody else. He goes, stop letting out of the throttle and floating to the back. So I made a promise to him. I said, if I get in the playoffs, I'm going to send it at Auto Club.
Send it at Auto Club. I like the phrase, Michael. A great job tonight to get a top 10 on your tally and to make it to the playoffs this season. Before we let you go, anybody that you want to thank in particular for the run tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I like to thank you guys. You always do a great job. Love watching the broadcast. Definitely Four Wide, 5 years. I think I've been here for 4 of them. Been eventful to say the least. So it has definitely grown since the beginning. Like to thank DBR, of course. We're a bunch of brothers over there. We all pick on each other, and we all sit there and love each other in the same sense. And then, obviously, I'd like to thank my wife, because without her, none of this is possible. And of course, my 6 kids too. They're awesome.
Well, Michael, as always, we appreciate the time whenever we get to talk to you. Congratulations, you're in the postseason for 4 Wide Racing Season 7. Best of luck as you in the field take on Auto Club in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Michael Newbraw gets the top 10 and gets the last playoff spot. He will join many others that we'll talk about later when we divulge our full 15-car playoff field. We'll turn now to Austin Reedy, who unfortunately misses out, was very close all night long and fighting around that cut line. But Austin, unfortunately, it comes up short. How would you describe the way this race went tonight and how you feel after the finish? Austin, you got a copy with us? Oh, it looks like we do not have Austin Reedy right now, so not sure if we can get some of his thoughts, but I'm sure at the moment, pretty crestfallen and heartbroken at this juncture, given how this race ended for him, Keelan. I mean, you're just one lap away from calling yourself a 4-wide playoff driver, and all of a sudden you get spun out entering turn 1, and in the blink of an eye, you find yourself falling right behind that cut line. And in a race, especially at the end when we talked about Brandon Banks possibly being that first man looking in as the driver out of the playoffs because he was, in the garage, the car was damaged. Now Austin Reedy has to face that reality that he will not be a postseason contender in Season 7.
And that's the unfortunate thing. There's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat is what they call it. And it's unfortunate for Austin Reedy. He's going to be the first man out as it stands right now. But, I mean, he was right there, and you can't knock your season because you had a good season if you're Austin Reedy to this point for the most part. And it's unfortunate for him how it ended, but I think if he just made a few more starts, probably right there racing with these guys, but he made 17 starts in contrary to Newbraw's 21, and I think that is where that really got him at the end of the season, and it's unfortunate, but he's going to be back next year. He's one of the guys that have been here for a little bit, especially with Murray Reedy Motorsports, and he's going to be a guy who's going to be in contention right when we come back next season, so his eyes are going to be straightforward to Season 8, but for Michael Newbraw, he's sitting here in Season 7 in the playoffs, and I think this may be one of the most competitive playoff pictures that we have, Kenneth.
And, last season we were thinking about whether we were going to see Brandon Hawkin in the playoff picture, and we know that the competition is so fierce, but Brandon, it was the big what if as to whether he would have run for the championship, how well would he have done when we got to the playoffs and going down to the championship at Homestead in Miami. Now we can figure out that answer. How will he perform now that it's playoff time? And like he said, he's got to get back to business. And how does everyone else respond? Steven Maggio in his first career 4-wide playoffs, how does he survive and how does he move on through? Jaden Porter with the experience that he carries as a former series champion, does he fold under the pressure? And for all of those other drivers that find themselves in the playoffs again, how does it all shake out? It's going to be a wonderful event at Auto Club Speedway. That will be our next race. And for right now, we will try to get you the full-on approach as to the 15 drivers that are locked in. We're going to try to get you a bit of a graphic on the screen right now, but we can tell you who they are as we see it. Brandon Hawkin is the playoff points leader going into the beginning round at Auto Club. He will have 18 points to his benefit playoff-wise. Steven Maggio behind him in second. Then third in the seeding will be Jaden Porter. Lawson Peel will be fourth. Kyle Benson in fifth, followed by Lance Hill, Nicholas Bauman, Eric Schaefer, Mikey Neal, and Curtis Kelly through the top 10. The first 5 that will be out will be kick off the round at Auto Club. We'll start with AJ Green, Brandon Banks, who gets his way in, Trevor Haley, Craig Lounslager, and Michael Newbraw. That is it. Those are the 15 drivers that will run for a 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series title at the end. So really, guys, it's going to be a ton of fun. And Francisco, as you join us now in the booth, you get a better look at what this playoff picture looks like. What do you think?
I was spending all race looking at where Austin Reedy and Michael Newbraw was. That was my subplot. I was just trying to pay attention to what was going on around the cut line, and that wreck there on the final lap is ultimately the nail in the coffin for Austin Reedy's hope, and Michael Newbraw was able to capture that last spot. But otherwise, besides that battle to get in, you look at this, the drivers all in, they have done the work. They are now in position, and now in 2 weeks' time at the Auto Club Speedway, the grind is going to begin to work your way to each round Each race is going to matter. Every point is going to matter. All in the hopes of getting to Homestead Miami Speedway on May 28th with a chance to race for a championship in Season 7 of 4 Wide.
That's not all the top 15, so I just try to get everybody in there, but it's tough when you have those 15 drivers looking for the spot, and everyone's going to find themselves in. It's going to be a wonderful time, and Auto Club already had a race this season, so it's going to be an incredible time. You won't want to miss it. April 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the race coverage for you, but it will be around 8:30 for the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show. When we get to it, we're going to have a ton of fun. Lots of storylines to pitch at you. And when we get our playoff field decided and running here at Auto Club California, we're going to tell you all about how it all ends up. That'll wrap up our coverage tonight from the virtual Daytona International Speedway for the regular season finale. On behalf of Tyler Murray and the entire 4 Wide team that makes it all possible on the league side of things, a happy 5-year anniversary to the 4 Wide Racing Series, and to everyone at the KBueno Racing Network that makes this all possible, to our phenomenal crew on the broadcast tonight, for our in-race reporter Francisco Bacalhau and the lovely crew alongside me, Charlie Byer and Keelan Belsha. I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Daytona Beach. 15 drivers are in. Let's run for a championship. Auto Club in 2 weeks' time.